Apocalypse. Aunt, don't be afraid, I will protect you. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. Neighbor Aunt. In the dark corner of the corridor, two figures, a man and a woman, were hugging each other tightly, trying not to make any sound. About 3 hours ago. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Hearing the doorbell, Shen walked over to open the security door. The next second, a fresh and elegant perfume smell came to his face. The owner of the perfume, with a charming and beautiful face, soft eyes, and a fair face, was Aunt King, Xia Wanqing, who lived next door. She should have just taken a shower. Her hair was tied into a gentle bun behind her head. She was wearing a pink nightgown, but her good figure could not be concealed. Her breasts and beautiful buttocks stretched out an attractive arc, full of the flavor of mature woman. Aunt King, please come in. Shen didn't dare to look at her for too long, and hurriedly made way for her to enter the house. I thought you were not at home. Xia Wanqing walked in gracefully. Her nightgown was split under the slit, and two charming white legs were looming while walking. Normally, Shen prefers to see women wearing stockings, but this person does not include Aunt King. Her skin is so good, white, and delicate that it is not an exaggeration to describe it as creamy. Aunt King, if you come a little later, I will really go out. Shen withdrew his gaze a little overwhelmed and closed the door. Going out for dinner? Yeah. Hearing this, Xia Wanqing's charming peach blossom eyes looked towards the kitchen. Don't you want to cook for yourself? It's unhealthy to always go out to eat. Auntie happens to be free today, so I'll cook for you. No, Auntie King, it's too troublesome. Shen was a little embarrassed. You are still being polite to your aunt, right? Xia Wanqing rolled her eyes at Shen coquettishly. Are there any vegetables at home? No. Shen lives alone, let alone cooking for himself. He hasn't been to the kitchen for a long time. Okay, Auntie just bought some vegetables this morning. I'll bring them to you to copy a few dishes. Without waiting for Shen to refuse, Xia Wanqing got up and went home directly. When she came back, Auntie King had 2 large bags of vegetables and meat in her hands, in addition to a blue and white paper box with the filler logo on it. Putting the food in the kitchen, Xia Wanqing opened the box and took out a pair of filler sneakers. I just passed by this store when I was shopping. I felt that the style of these shoes is very suitable for you young people, so I bought them for you. Come on, try them on and see if they fit your feet. Shen was even more embarrassed. Aunt King, you have sent so many ingredients, but how can I ask you to buy shoes? I really don't need it. Xia Wanqing blinked her eyelashes and reached out to touch Shen cheek. Be good, change quickly. Her fingertips were soft and warm, and this somewhat intimate little action made Shen blush, and his heart beat faster. After all, this is the goddess in his heart. Shen is an orphan. His parents died when he was very young, leaving him alone in the world. During the most difficult time, Aunt King's warm smile, patient companionship, careful care, and guidance were like a beam of light shining into his dark life. Shen has always been grateful for this, and gradually fell in love with Aunt King. At first he thought it was just family affection, but when he grew up he found that it was not that simple. But Shen also knew that this was impossible. Although Aunt King had never been married and was already 35 years old, he was already a leftover. But he had just graduated from college and had not found a job. His conditions were so poor that he was not worthy of the beautiful Aunt King. The best choice was to secretly hide this deep admiration in his heart and not show any traces. At Aunt King's urging, Shen could not refuse, so he could only sit on the old fabric sofa, take off his slippers, and put on the white filler sneakers. Xia Wanqing leaned over and patiently tied Shen shoelaces, then pressed the toe of the shoe and smiled. Not bad, it fits well. Thank you, Aunt King. Shen felt warm in his heart. I will pay it back to Aunt King when I find a job and make money. He is 23 years old this year and has just graduated from medical school. If he can go to work in a better hospital, the income will be very good. However, Xia Wanqing shook her head when she heard this. Why are you being so formal with your aunt? You know that, even if I lie down and do nothing in my next life, I can't spend all the money in my aunt's card. Although Aunt King still lives in this old building, but she is a very famous physical book writer, and her net worth is only tens of millions. Thinking of this, Shen Yan was a little discouraged. Even if he worked very hard and was admitted to a good medical school, the gap between him and her was still too big. Unless there was a major change, he would not even have the courage to express his admiration. This is my feeling. He still couldn't help but refute. It's enough to have this feeling. Xia Wanqing got up and sat next to Shen Yan, changing the subject. By the way, you are going to apply for a job at the hospital, right? I was downstairs just now, and I heard the guard say something strange happened in the hospital. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar. What's the matter? Shen Yan asked absent-mindedly. Aunt King was very close to him at this time, her plump thighs faintly pressed against his knees, and the fleshy touch was very tempting. Auntie came back from buying groceries this morning and heard from the security guard that something very weird happened in the third hospital. An old man had been dead for 3 days, but when his family went to the morgue to pay their respects to his remains, he suddenly sat up and bit everyone he met, biting many family members. The dead old man suddenly resurrected. Why does it feel like some unreliable urban legend? Shen Yan didn't quite believe it. Is it true? As the old sofa collapsed, Auntie King's beautiful buttocks pressed against Shen Yan's thighs. Auntie doesn't know, but what the security guard said is very convincing, and it doesn't seem fake. She didn't realize that the two were a little close. The soft and plump thighs made Shen Yan feel itchy. He said with a dry mouth, "Did the security guard say when it happened?" "It seems to be around noon today." When Xia Wanqing said this, she suddenly laughed. "Forget it. It really doesn't seem true. Let's not talk about it. Auntie will go to cook for you." Aunt King got up. Shen Yan said a little disappointedly, "I'll help you, Aunt King." As for this urban legend, he didn't take it seriously. The sun was shining outside the window. How could it be the end of the world? "No, I can do it myself." "Oh, don't be polite." "What?" Xia Wanqing frowned. "Do you dislike your aunt's slow cooking?" "No, no." Shen Yan waved his hand helplessly, and Xia Wanqing smiled. "Be good. Play by yourself for a while. It will be done soon." Shen Yan rolled his eyes. "Auntie, I'm not a child now." "Then you are also a child who will never grow up in my heart." Xia Wanqing smiled and said this, and turned and walked into the kitchen under Shen Yan's gaze. Then she tied her apron around her slender waist like a housewife, and began to wash and chop vegetables skillfully. The knife fell on the chopping board, making a rhythmic sound. It was a warm picture. But at this moment, the setting sun in the western sky, which was sinking in the clouds, seemed to melt. The blood of the sun spread in the clouds, reflecting the whole world in blood red. New author and new book. Please collect. Chapter 2 Bloody Sunset. Aunt King is not only a good cook, but also very skillful. It took her just over half an hour to prepare 4 dishes. Eat quickly, the sunset is beautiful today. Aunt King brought the food to the table, looked out the window, and said with a smile. Looking out the window at this moment, tall buildings stood in a row, bathing in the bright red light of the sunset, magnificent as a painting. It was indeed beautiful, but too beautiful, a little abnormal. Shen Yan even felt a little creepy. But he didn't think too much. His eyes were quickly attracted by the food on the table. Boiled beef, celery fried meat, tomato scrambled eggs, cucumber and white fungus. They are all very ordinary home-cooked dishes, but they are delicious and appetizing. Shen Yan was not polite and took the initiative to sit at the table, smiling. "Thank you, Aunt King." Xia Wanqing served him a big bowl of rice and handed it to him. "Why are you polite? Eat it quickly." "I don't know if it tastes good or not. Aunt King cooks everything delicious. You are the only one who is sweet-mouthed." Shen Yan smiled. He picked up the chopsticks and took a bite of boiled beef. Spicy and fresh, and then took a bite of scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Wow, sweet and delicious, delicious. Aunt King's cooking skills are really great, and it feels like you can't eat enough. Shen Yan couldn't stop at all, and ate one bite after another, reveling. Eat slowly, no one is snatching it from you. Xia Wanqing was angry. But seeing Shen Yan so lively, she was very satisfied in her heart. Then she served herself a small bowl of rice, and she also started to eat it in small bites. Although she looks plump, like a ripe peach, she actually eats very little. It is not easy for a mature woman to maintain her figure. Many times, she only eats fruits or vegetables for a meal, and she will do aerobics or yoga when she has nothing to do. This is also the secret of why her skin is still as delicate as snow and her belly is flat and smooth at the age of 30. Aunt King quickly stopped eating. Shen Yan simply put all the remaining food together and finished his meal. When he finished eating, his stomach was bulging. Burp, it's so delicious. Shen Yan burped, feeling quite satisfied. What he didn't know was that this warm scene in front of him and this delicious meal would become his unforgettable memory in the future. If it's delicious, Auntie will always cook for you. Xia Wanqing said as she stood up and started to clean up the dishes. Aunt King, let me wash the dishes. Aunt King is a great writer and a very delicate and elegant woman. If she wants, she can just hire a nanny and she won't have to do any housework. But now she has to cook and wash dishes, just like a housewife. Shen Yan is very embarrassed and a little distressed. No, you always use too much detergent when washing dishes, and you don't rinse them thoroughly, which is bad for your health. Xia Wanqing didn't wait for Shen Yan to say anything else. She turned around and walked into the kitchen with the dishes in her arms. Shen Yan had no choice but to follow and stand guard at the kitchen door. At this time, the afterglow of the sunset seemed even more gorgeous, shining in from the window, reflecting a blood red color on the tiles on the kitchen side facing the sink. Aunt King's body also seemed to be covered with a layer of red light. This sunset is so beautiful, I have never seen it in my life. Aunt King said without turning her head, while washing the dishes. Shen Yan's mood was a little uneasy, but he didn't care too much, because he was thinking about another problem now. Aunt King likes this sunset very much, so should I invite her out to see it? And then take the opportunity to confess to her and tell her the emotions that have been suppressed in my heart for these years. Shen Yan's heartbeat accelerated a little. This is indeed a once in a lifetime opportunity. But what should I say to confess? Aunt King, I like you. Or, Aunt King, I love you? And what would Aunt King's reaction be? Would she agree or remain silent? The probability of agreeing was probably less than 1%, and once she remained silent, it would be difficult for them to maintain their current relationship, right? What are you looking at? Xia Wanqing had already finished washing the dishes and turned around to look at Shen Yan's dazed look. She said with a bit of amusement, and her face was extremely charming against the backdrop of the setting sun. Aunt King, I like you. Shen Yan blurted out these words almost subconsciously, but when the word came to his lips, they turned into, the sunset is so beautiful. Silly, you continue to look, Auntie will help you clean up the house. Xia Wanqing scratched Shen Yan's nose. After leaving the kitchen, she helped him pick up the clothes that were randomly discarded in the house, and then folded them in different categories. Shen Yan sighed slightly, and he still didn't have the courage to say those words. Aunt King, you take a rest. I can clean up the house by myself. Don't get too tired. Shen Yan came over and said, scratching his head a little embarrassedly. Cooking, doing housework, these are all my hobbies, not tiring at all. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar. Xia Wanqing didn't listen at all. After helping Shen Yan fold all the clothes, she took a rag and knelt on the ground, carefully wiping the sofa and the TV cabinet. From Shen Yan's angle, the curve of the hips under the nightgown was amazing, and the beautiful arch of the foot without socks was also in full view. He respected Aunt King very much, but he could hardly control himself and set up a small tent. There was no way, if you love someone from the bottom of your heart, you must want to get all of her. He really likes Aunt King too much, from the heart to the body, he likes her so much. But if he lives normally like this, he also knows that there is no possibility for him and Aunt King. Age and economy are two insurmountable mountains in front of them. This is why he dare not confess. Very distressed, but there is nothing he can do. Aunt King has been taking care of him since his parents died when he was 8 years old. And she has always been so open, probably because she has always treated him as a child and never as a real man. Alas. Okay, now it feels like a home. Auntie will go back first. After cleaning up the house, Xia Wanqing clapped her hands in satisfaction. Well, goodbye, Auntie King. Shen Yan really wanted to stay with Auntie King for a while. But the small tent hadn't been taken down yet, and he didn't dare to stand up while sitting on the sofa, so he didn't try to keep her. But at this moment, there was a noise outside the window, and someone cursed, as if someone was fighting. A common problem among ripers is that they like gossip and watching the fun. Xia Wanqing immediately leaned over the window and looked out eagerly. Unfortunately, it was almost 7 o'clock in the evening. The blood-red sunset had completely set, and the street lights in the old residential area were also dim. There were people in the community, but it was hard to see what they were doing. Damn, I can't see anything clearly. So many people are running. What happened? Auntie King's tone at this moment was like a little girl who was a little unhappy because she didn't get to eat the melon. Shen Yan felt a little amused. This was another side of Aunt King that he liked. Although she was gentle and virtuous, she was not dull at all. Maybe everyone thinks it's fun to watch. I'll go out and take a look. Xia Wanqing rolled up her sleeves and ran out skipping. If it's just a fight, it shouldn't be dangerous, right? Although Shen Yan was also very curious about what happened. But he didn't follow, but turned and walked into the bathroom. He was too hot now and needed to take a cold shower to relax. After stripping himself naked and turning on the faucet, Shen Yan stood under the shower. As a result, he just put shampoo in his hair, and before he had time to rinse, he suddenly heard a scream. Ah! The voice was high-pitched and terrified, and this voice seemed to be the words of Aunt King's writer. Chapter 3 Don't be afraid, Aunt King. This cry was too unusual, as if he had encountered something terrifying. Shen Yan's heart skipped a beat, and he didn't even have time to wash off the foam on his head. He pulled the bath towel around himself and ran out of the room. Shen Yan's home was on the 3rd floor. Just as he ran to the door of the unit downstairs, he saw Aunt King running back from a distance. Looking back, and there seemed to be 4 or 5 figures following behind her. Ah, who is it? Looking back and seeing Shen Yan, Xia Wanqing was startled again and asked with a pale face. Aunt King, it's me. What's wrong? Ouch. Xia Wanqing patted her chest with lingering fear and said hurriedly, Xiaoyan, hurry up, something big has happened. Then, without saying anything, she pulled Shen Yan's hand and ran upstairs. Aunt King was very strong, and Shen Yan almost fell down when she pulled him hard. At the same time, his hand loosened, and the bath towel fell to the ground. Shen Yan subconsciously wanted to pick it up, but when he turned back, those figures had already caught up with him. Their running posture was weird, and they were making ho-ho roars from their mouths. They were no longer like humans. Shen Yan suddenly seemed to think of something, and the coldness instantly rushed from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He could no longer care about anything else, and ran upstairs with Aunt King. Hurry, go to Aunt's house and hide for a while. When he arrived at the door of the 3rd floor, Xia Wanqing calmed down a little. But his hands were still shaking violently, and he trembled as he touched the pocket of his pajamas. Where are the keys? Where are my keys? It was clearly here just now. Aunt King stamped her feet anxiously, but she couldn't find anything after searching for a long time. Shen Yan reminded, Aunt King, did you leave your keys at my house? Xia Wanqing reacted, yes, Aunt just cleaned up the house for you. Xiaoyan, what about you? Did you bring your keys? No. Shen Yan was naked. And what's more, before he went out, he subconsciously closed his own door. Hurry upstairs. Go to the neighbor's house. Xia Wanqing almost collapsed and pulled Shen Yan's hand again, wanting to ask for help from the neighbor. But at this moment, with the sound of thump thump approaching, those figures just now have rushed up. Although their running posture is weird, their speed is not slow, and it is definitely too late to go upstairs. It's over. Xia Wanqing's eyes went dark. Having just seen these people biting passers-by, no one knows better than her how terrifying they are. Shen Yan was also scared. But as a medical student in surgery, his psychological quality is still good. At this critical moment, he didn't care about anything else, hugged Aunt King's soft suburbs from behind, and protected her in the darkest corner of the corridor. Aunt King, don't make a sound. I'll explain to you later. Shen Yan covered Aunt King's mouth and tried his best to lower his voice. Just now, the glimpse, and then thinking of the urban legend of the old man in the third hospital, resurrected from the dead, he found that these things seemed like zombies that often appear in film and television dramas. And the zombies seemed to identify their prey by light and sound. Although he didn't know if this was true, he didn't even have a scalpel in his hand. Resistance would only kill him faster, so he could only take a gamble. If the gamble was right, they could all survive. And if the gamble was wrong, he just happened to protect Aunt King under him. If he was discovered at that time, he would protect Aunt King, even if he risked his life. Xia Wanqing widened her eyes in horror. Because she had her back to the zombies, she could only hear the footsteps getting closer and closer. She was more and more frightened, but more regretful. If she wasn't so curious and didn't come out to watch the fun, she wouldn't have put Xiaoan in danger with her, right? The messy footsteps were still approaching. One could even smell the pungent smell of blood and stench. Xia Wanqing closed her eyes resigned to her fate, and tears silently fell from the corners of her eyes. Xiaoan, I'm sorry. Shen Yan's fear at this moment was no less than Aunt King's. With his back to the zombies, the hairs on his back stood up, and his heart beat like a drum. He turned his head stiffly, and the next second, he was even more frightened, and almost scared to death. At this moment, the zombie in front was less than a foot away from his face. Even though the lights in the old-fashioned staircase were broken, with the help of the faint moonlight, he could see the bloody face of the leading zombie and smell the pungent smell of blood. Fortunately, as a surgical student, he often faced corpses and had a strong psychological quality. He tried his best to hold his breath and remained motionless. The disgusting face was still approaching, as if observing something in confusion. Stop at 20 centimeters. Don't look at it anymore. 10 centimeters. Damn it, it's over 5 centimeters. It's over, completely. Shen Yan was desperate, but he didn't give up. His muscles were tense and his teeth were clenched. He was ready to fight to the death. This work is compiled and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bookbar in any case. He didn't want Aunt King to be hurt even a little bit. But just when he was about to release the hand that was tightly holding Aunt King and throw a punch, that face actually stopped. Then it almost stuck to the tip of Shen Yan's nose, shook its head left and right, and turned its body. That's close. Not making any sound seems to really work. Shen Yan stopped his fist abruptly. Under his gaze, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. The zombie's steps were very slow, not as agile as when it was chasing just now. But it was really leaving, and then, driven by it, other zombies followed it and staggered towards the 4th floor. Until they disappeared from sight. Shen Yan gasped wildly. After surviving the disaster, he was almost exhausted. Xia Wanqing also heard the footsteps gradually fading away. She didn't know what happened, but the string that was tense in her heart was also slightly relaxed. And until then, she suddenly realized that the postures of the two were a little ambiguous. Xiao and Xia Wanqing's cheeks were hot, and she blushed and twisted her body uncomfortably, feeling that amazing softness. It was not until then that Shen Yan realized that there was something wrong with the position of his hand. His heartbeat, which had just calmed down, began to beat violently again. However, he respected Aunt King very much, and even though he was reluctant to leave, he did not hesitate to withdraw his hand. Aunt King, I'm sorry. It happened for a reason. I don't blame you. Why did they leave? Xia Wanqing tried her best to control her eyes from moving downwards. She remembered that Xiaoan seemed to have a bath towel on her body just now. Did she lose it? They may use sound and light to identify prey. The two spoke in low voices, which did not attract the attention of the zombies. Xia Wanqing patted her chest with lingering fear. It's so scary. The situation was so urgent just now that I didn't even remember that there was a key under the doormat. Let's go home quickly. Okay. Shen Yan was also somewhat relieved. Although the process just now was extremely dangerous and the world seemed to be undergoing a huge change that he didn't understand, as long as he returned home, he should be safe for the time being. Boom. But at this moment, he didn't pay attention to his feet and kicked an empty mineral water bottle that he didn't know who threw it. The corridor was very quiet at the moment. This sudden sound instantly attracted the attention of the zombies again. And as luck would have it, there was another zombie who had just come up from downstairs. Upon hearing the words, he immediately rushed over with a roar. It's over. There are pursuers in front and blockades behind. Chapter 4. Staircase Terror. The key is under the footpad. In such a short time, it would be too late to take out the key and open the security door. Shen had no choice. In a hurry, he protected Aunt King in the corner again. But unlike last time, he hugged Aunt King's mature and plump body from the front this time. And why is the touch different from just now? Aunt King's nightgown is made of cotton. Why is it silky and smooth at this moment, like silk? Shen was a little confused. But the situation was urgent at the moment, and he didn't have time to think so much. He held his breath, and hugged Aunt King tightly again. This time he didn't cover Aunt King's mouth, but after Xia Wanqing knew that zombies rely on sound to identify prey, she pursed her lips tightly, and tried not to make any sound. Roar, roar, roar. The zombies upstairs and downstairs gathered together. There were as many as 7 or 8, but there was no sound to determine the direction. They once again seemed to have lost their prey, and wandered around in confusion. Shen heart was slightly relaxed. Although this kind of scary and disgusting monster brings a strong sense of oppression to people. But as long as they don't make any sound, they seem to be unable to find the target. And once he relaxed, he couldn't help but have some random thoughts. Aunt King's body was so comfortable to hug. He realized at this time that the only tie around Aunt King's nightgown had been opened at some point. She was wearing silk underwear inside, and most of her fair skin was exposed. It was fine when they were facing each other with their backs, but now facing each other, their skins were almost completely attached together. Aunt King's body was warm, soft, smooth, and fragrant. Shen was only 23, at the age of blood and vigor. The crisis behind him also added an inexplicable sense of tension and excitement. How could he withstand such temptation? Although Shen didn't move or make any sound, but his mouth was very dry and his body temperature was constantly rising. Aunt King was the woman he loved to the bone. Normally, he didn't even dare to touch her hand, but now, oh, I'm going crazy. At this time, because they didn't find the two, a few zombies wandered around for a few circles and wandered to the 4th floor again. Xia Wanqing relaxed a little, but also found her embarrassment. Her body is extremely sensitive, and Shen couldn't see the expression on Aunt King's face at the moment. But he could feel that her body temperature was gradually rising. She seemed to be very uncomfortable and slowly twisting her hot body in front of his chest. She must want to move away from him to avoid too much physical contact. But the zombies haven't left yet. Although Xia Wanqing was ashamed and her face was flushed, she didn't dare to move too much. Because of her twisting, Shen was undoubtedly more stimulated. His heartbeat soared, and it felt like it was almost 180. He breathed in with a dry mouth, and the heat rushed straight up from the bottom of his heart, and he couldn't suppress it at all. Aunt King's body temperature was still rising, and it was so hot that it made people feel itchy. Aunt King's underwear was silk, and normally it would have a cool and silky feeling. But gradually, as the temperature of the two people's bodies became higher and higher, the thin silk was soon soaked by their sweat and stuck to their bodies slickly. That kind of charming feeling is really deadly. Kiss. I'll kiss you. Anyway, you may die at any time. What's there to worry about? Shen blood was surging at this moment. His head was hot, and he almost lost all his reason. There was only one thought left in his mind, that he couldn't help but kiss her. Kiss this woman who he had been thinking about day and night, the most important, most respected, and most loved woman in his life. But at this moment, the roar of the zombies pulled him back to reality, and he regained some reason. No. The crisis has not been resolved yet, and there is a possibility of death at any time. Besides, although Aunt King is only 12 years older than him, she is of the same generation as his mother. How can he cross the line? If he really does something excessive, can he and Aunt King go back to the past in the future? Although Aunt King is gentle and virtuous, elegant and dignified, it does not mean that she has no temper. And he couldn't possibly disrespect Aunt King. At least he wouldn't do anything inappropriate before he understood her feelings. Shen gritted his teeth and resolutely gave up the idea. Roar. The zombie roared again. But there was no way to target it. It paused for a moment and also walked upstairs. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bokbar Xia Wanqing, who had never dared to breathe. She couldn't control herself anymore and subconsciously let out a long sigh. But the normal breathing, after coming out of her throat this time, turned into a kind of soul-stirring and gentle hum, mature and charming. Shen Yan's heart trembled again. But at this time, the zombies had left, and what he should do most was to let go of Aunt King and go home. Hey, why is it so regrettable? Obviously, I'm about to die, but I want to hold Aunt King and never let go. Shen Yan regretfully prepared to let go of his arms. But at this moment, I don't know if Aunt King's humming ruined the matter. Several zombies ran down again. Shen Yan was anxious. Not only did he not loosen his arms, but he held them tighter. Of course, he didn't mean to do that, but the situation was really dangerous. This was a zombie. If you were a bit more scratched, you might be doomed. Xia Wanqing didn't dare to move anymore. She tensed her body and tried to stay still. But the more she tensed her body, the clearer the charming feeling became. With the erosion of sweat, her whole body was itchy, as if there were thousands of ants crawling on it. Go away, go away. Xia Wanqing was so uncomfortable that she almost cried, and she prayed frantically in her heart. Her panting also accelerated unconsciously. The more she didn't want to make a sound, the more she couldn't control her humming. The zombies' IQ was not very high. They were about to leave when they couldn't hear the guidance of the sound. But this faint, low, and gentle humming attracted their footsteps again. They couldn't judge the direction, so they couldn't stop spinning in place. Under the double superposition of heat and fear, Shen Yan was also in great pain, and soon he was sweating profusely. And as luck would have it, he hadn't rinsed off the shampoo on his head, and now, driven by the sweat, it slowly and continuously flowed down. Then it dripped onto Aunt King's pink cheeks, slowly flowing down, flowing over Aunt King's fair chin, neck, collarbone, and Xia Wanqing's delicate body tensed again, but to no avail. The sweat that flowed like a little snake was slippery and itchy, stimulating her to the point of almost going crazy, and her cherry mouth opened slightly uncontrollably. But if there was another sound, they would really be dead. Almost subconsciously, Xia Wanqing stretched out her thumb and put it into her mouth with a dazed look. She herself didn't know why she did this. She only felt that her body was in an unprecedented strange state at the moment. And the only thing she could do at the moment was to try her best to hold her fingers and try not to make any sound. Chapter 5 Don't panic when things go wrong. The corridor returned to silence. But Shen Yan, who was hugging Aunt King tightly, naturally felt the change in Aunt King. He turned his head slightly, suppressed the fear of being discovered by the zombies, and looked at Aunt King's face with the corner of his eye. The moonlight was dim, and he could only see her white jade fingers in her mouth, with a hint of madness in her blurred eyes. The other hand tightly grasped Shen Yan's smooth waist. Sometimes he relaxed, sometimes he tightened, and sometimes he stroked, as if these movements were all done unconsciously. Shen Yan was stunned for a moment. Then he seemed to understand something, and his heart beat. Gudang. He swallowed his saliva, and he could no longer control himself, and was about to kiss her. But at this moment, there was a click upstairs, as if someone opened the door. What are you arguing about? Why are there so many people in the corridor? What are you doing? Ah. The shouting upstairs instantly attracted the attention of most of the zombies. At this moment, Aunt King's body suddenly tensed up again, and then slowly softened. Shen Yan regained a little bit of rationality. He dared not think about it anymore, and took the opportunity to let go of Aunt King, took out the key from under the footrest, opened the security door, and pulled Aunt King back home. Bang! The moment the door was closed, the two of them breathed a sigh of relief again, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. At this moment, they all felt lucky to have survived a disaster. If they had been discovered by zombies just now, he could not imagine the consequences. It was too dangerous and the tense mood was relaxed. Shen Yan remembered that he was still naked. He was at Aunt King's house at the moment, and he had no suitable clothes. He hurriedly ran to the sofa with a red face, pulled a blanket, and put it on himself. Tonight, you sleep there, Xia Wanqing said expressionlessly. Then, she moved her still trembling thighs and walked back to her bedroom in silence, as if nothing had happened. She tied the laces in front of the nightgown again without a word. Shen Yan opened his mouth nervously, but he didn't dare to speak in the end. He was afraid that he would say something wrong and irritate Aunt King. Hey, is Aunt King really angry? Shen Yan was a little panicked, but he quickly shook his head. Aunt King is a very considerate person, and what happened just now was for a reason, so she would never be angry. Then there is probably only one possibility left, that she is very embarrassed now. After all, she just seemed. Thinking of this, Shen Yan's heartbeat accelerated again. But now is obviously not the time to think about these things. At this moment, there is still chaos outside the window, which is obviously a scene of the end of the world. Quietly coming to the window, Shen Yan looked outside. At this moment, countless cars collided with each other on the road, igniting a blazing fire, and there were pedestrians running around, making high-pitched and sharp screams from time to time, followed by groups of zombies chasing. Why is this happening? Shen Yan felt a little sad, but more puzzled. But if you want to know what happened, TV news is a good choice. Thinking of this, Shen Yan hurriedly found the remote control, turned on the TV, and turned the volume to the lowest. This is a local channel, and entertainment programs are being broadcast at the moment. But the next second, the screen suddenly interrupted and turned into an emergency news broadcast. This is Binhe TV station. Good evening, citizens. Now we are broadcasting an emergency news broadcast for you. A biting zombie has appeared in Binhe City. It is very contagious. If you find your relatives and friends bitten, please kill them immediately. They are no longer human. In addition, if you encounter zombies, please do not take the initiative to attack. It is best to hide at home and wait. The beautiful female host in the picture was halfway through her words when she suddenly screamed and was thrown to the ground by her colleague with blood on his face. The picture shook for a while, but it did not stop. Then came the sound of gnawing flesh and blood. The TV station is like this. Binhe City must have fallen. Shen Yan couldn't stop the chill in his heart. But what if it was just their Binhe that fell? Other places in the country are actually fine. With a glimmer of hope, Shen Yan turned to the official TV station again. The picture shows a news studio, but there is no one in it. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar, but just when Shen Yan was about to change the channel, a figure came over unsteadily. She was wearing an old lady's suit, her face was pale, and blood was flowing from the corner of her mouth. At this time, she just put her face close to the camera, and you can see her black and grey eyeballs and the minced meat in her mouth. That was not swallowed cleanly. Shen Yan recognized this female host, but none of this matters anymore. Now things are really serious. The end of the world. Who would have thought that he and Aunt King were having a warm meal together just a moment ago, looking forward to life after entering the hospital, and the next second all this would no longer exist. But thinking of Aunt King, Shen Yan felt a little relieved. Normally, there would be no possibility for him and Aunt King, but now things seem to have a glimmer of hope. But even if there is a turnaround, the premise is that they have to survive in this cruel doomsday, otherwise everything is empty talk. Shen Yan is not a fan of the end of the world, so he has no experience in surviving the end of the world. After turning off the TV, he sat down at the desk again, turned on Aunt King's computer, and searched for relevant information. He didn't know how long the electricity and the internet would last after something like this happened, so he could only make the most of this time to collect more useful information about survival. He opened the Doomsday Survival Forum. The posts in it were increasing all the time, and it had never been so lively before. Oh my god. I just got married today, but before I even entered the bridal chamber, something like this happened. I won't say any more. My wife is knocking on my door again. Why are contemporary young people emotionally stable? Isn't it because you shouldn't panic when something happens and post your moments first? Hey, I feel so bad for this big brother. Also, I have a question. I was just bitten on the butt. I shouldn't die, right? 3 minutes of collective silence. Fuck, I'm definitely dead too. I live in Thompson Yipin. There are too many people. Rich big brother. Haha, I used to envy people living in big cities. Now it's so good. There are more than 1,000 people in our village, and they are all old, weak, sick and disabled. There is enough water and food. I won't say anything more. I'm going to be the king of the mountain. Fuck, which village are you in, brother? I'll go to you. The countryside is indeed a good place to go. Write it down first. Hey, is there anyone to save me? My wife is crazy and is banging on the door. Brother, you are too cowardly. You are a big man and you're doing it with her. What are you talking about? My wife weighs 300 kilograms and I'm like a skinny monkey. How can I stand it? The number of posts in the forum has increased rapidly, but most of them are panic complaints and there is not much useful information. But at this moment, a newly pinned post suddenly caught Shen Yan's attention. I found the only way to survive in the zombie apocalypse. Right square bracket. Chapter 6 Quick, open the door. This post is too eye-catching. Shen Yan clicked on it directly, but found that it was a clickbait. Brothers, please don't criticize me first. I really found the only way to survive in the apocalypse. That is, if you can't beat them, just join them. As for the way to join, do I need to teach you? You can stick your arm out of the door and let them bite you. If you are afraid of pain, you can find dead zombies and lick their blood. It's just a little disgusting. The emotions of the survivors are unstable now. They are almost irritated. Naturally, this clickbait suffered all kinds of personal attacks. There were even people who dug up his 18 generations of ancestors and cursed them all. Although Shen Yan was a little unhappy, but he was very well educated and had no interest in cursing people, so he continued to browse. After a while, he really found a useful piece of information. Hahaha, I'm an avid apocalypse enthusiast. As early as a year ago, I sold my house and car and spent millions to build a safe shelter. Friends and relatives stayed away, my wife betrayed me, and the world laughed at me. Do you know how I spent this year? Hahaha, my bet turned out to be right. Now I want to show those who looked down on and betrayed me who will have the last laugh. In my shelter, there is enough food and drinking water stored. Even if I do nothing, I can eat for 100 years. In addition, let me share some survival knowledge about the apocalypse. Now that the apocalypse has just broken out, you may not realize the importance of food. But soon, you will find that the food will eventually run out, because the apocalypse is not a day, a month, or a year. It may be 10 years, or even 100 years, or until the extinction of mankind. In addition, there is water. Don't think that this thing is unimportant, because it can be found everywhere. Once it is touched by zombies, it will be contaminated. Finally, beautiful girls, please keep your eyes open. Of course, you can also come to me for help. To be honest, those male compatriots who want to team up with you just want to fuck you. Shen Yan probably also thought of the importance of food and water. This post was not very nutritious, but after seeing the IP address of this person, his eyes lit up. This person is also in Binhai, and in order to let the girl find him, he also shared his coordinates. Why is he not afraid? Because he also shared a picture of a pistol. Although I don't know where this person got it from, he must have a lot of powerful weapons, so he is so fearless. Shen Yan naturally didn't dare to provoke him. But if there is no safe place in the future, this is a place to go. There are very few people who abuse this post, and most people are still licking it. Little brother, I'm in Binhai, I'm going to you? Brother, I love me, my sister and I are twins, white skin, beautiful good life, not clingy, but we dare not go there. You can only find a way to pick us up. Brother, can you not be so stuck on gender? Fuck, you are showing off. You are a thing that will not die well. The villain is successful. Fuck, the zombies will bite you to death sooner or later. Very aggressive. Shen Yan shook his head and suddenly found that the rules of this world seemed to have changed. The suppressed darkness in people's hearts seemed to be released. In the past, those girls' messages would never be so naked, and the people's mouths would probably not be so smelly. Compared to the crisis of zombies, the human heart is undoubtedly more terrifying. Shen Yan whispered to himself. He once again realized the difficulty of survival. Aunt King is just a weak, gentle and virtuous writer. Although he often plays with a scalpel, he doesn't exercise much, and his physical fitness is average. In this dangerous apocalypse survival, the probability of his and Aunt King's survival is probably less than 10%. The road ahead is difficult. Shen Yan sighed. He continued to browse the forum until late at night. In order to avoid the disappearance of electricity in the future, he wrote down all the useful information in his notebook. In short, there are 3 key points for survival in the zombie apocalypse: a safe shelter, food, and weapons. There is no way to consider shelter now, and food also needs to be collected after ensuring safety. Relatively speaking, handy weapons are the easiest to get at the moment. According to the information in the forum, a powerful fire axe is placed in the corridor of each community. I don't know if the fire axe in the old building is still there. There are too many zombies in the corridor now. I'll go and take a look tomorrow if I have a chance. The horror in the corridor, coupled with not sleeping for so long, made Shen Yan very sleepy. But he still forced himself to get up and count the food again. Rice. 6 catties. White flour. 4 catties. Mung beans, red rice, millet and other coarse grains. 3 catties. Pork, beef and other meats. 11 catties. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar eggs. 13. Very few, but it is also very normal. Aunt King is a very delicate woman. She thinks that food is not fresh if it is left for too long. She never eats snacks randomly and generally does not stock up too much food at home. Not to mention Shen Yan's home. If Aunt King hadn't sent him to large bags of food today, Haozi would have left with tears in his eyes when he came to his house. Alas, it's adding insult to injury. With a shortage of food and living in such an old building, the chances of survival are too slim. System. Shen Yan, who often reads online articles, really has no choice but to shout in his heart with great expectation. But after a long time, there was no response. Brother Tangzi. Shen Yan was unwilling to give up. Ding. It's the end of the world. Why not ding? Still no response. System. Dad, save the child. Ding me quickly. A breeze blew in from the window and swept away a few pieces of paper. Forget it. I don't ask for much. Just sign in. Someone is going to die. Then don't sign in. It's okay to add some deep blue, right? Forget it. Forget it. Simulator. Simulator is fine. Shen Yan struggled for a long time. Finally, he stretched out his hand tremblingly and rustled in the air for a long time, but did not evoke any panel. It's over. But like what the forum said, if you can't beat the zombies, just join. That was impossible. After all, he was not only living for himself, but also for Aunt King. Aunt King had taken care of him before, so he had to take good care of her now. No matter how difficult the future was, he would definitely persevere. At this moment, the sky was already turning pale. Shen Yan came to the window and looked out again. The city was much quieter at this time. Many cars were burned into empty shells, and only zombies were wandering around in a daze. After experiencing this thrilling night, the survivors must have hidden in a corner, trying not to make any sound. But at this moment, bang 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 bang, a rapid knock on the door suddenly sounded. Open the door quickly. Then, a crisp female voice came from outside the door. At the same time, something suddenly popped up in front of Shen Yan. Doomsday changes, order collapse, the host is detected to be in crisis, and the system is starting. Oh my god, is there really a cheat? Chapter 7 Main Mission. Shen Yan blinked violently. It seemed that it was not an illusion. Then he almost couldn't help but jumped up from the spot in excitement. But when he saw the next prompt of the system, he couldn't help but his eyes went dark. System is starting. System failed to start. Host needs to complete the mainline pre-task before starting the system. Mainline pre-task description. 404. Please explore by yourself. Fuck. Shen Yan's eyes went dark. It's okay to complete the mainline task, but you have to at least let me know what the task is, right? Just now the panel seemed to say that the system was detected to be in crisis. So does solving the crisis mean completing the mainline task? But what is the crisis? Bang bang bang. Open the door quickly. The woman's shouting outside the door continued. Shen Yan came back to his senses, but he didn't rush to open the door, but looked out through the cat's eye. The one knocking on the door was a girl in her teens, the neighbor downstairs, young, beautiful, and slim. But Shenyan never had a cold for young girls. And there was blood on her neck, obviously bitten by a zombie. In other words, she will soon become a zombie. She is the source of the crisis? Yes, if it is according to the normal script, I will let her in, take good care of her, and then she will suddenly bite me. But if I just leave it alone, won't it be too negative? What if I can't complete the main task? And if she keeps screaming, I'm afraid it will attract more zombies. Shenyan thought of this. Gritting his teeth, he went to the kitchen to pick up a handy kitchen knife, put it behind his back, and went back to the door. What's the matter? Shenyan said cautiously as the security door opened a crack. The girl was stunned when she saw the door open, and then she looked surprised. Thank you for taking me in. She is really beautiful, and her charming appearance when asking for help will unconsciously make people want to protect her. But unfortunately, Shenyan really only likes mature women. You were bitten by someone, and you will soon become a zombie. Shenyan shook his head, without any intention of letting her in. What should I do then? The girl was terrified. Then, as if she remembered something, she pursed her lips and said pitifully, you will help me, right? As long as you help me, I will agree to anything you ask me to do. In her heart, her hints were so obvious. As long as there is a normal man in front of her, he will definitely take her in, right? After all, from childhood to adulthood, no one can resist her beauty. And don't look at her young age. As long as the man in front of her lets her in, she has the confidence to tame him completely. Okay, then close your eyes. Close your eyes? No, this is too impatient, isn't it? The girl complained in her heart, but still cooperated and closed her eyes. Shenyan's eyes calmed for a moment. The next second, he swung the kitchen knife without hesitation and chopped at the girl's neck. Puff. Blood gushed out, staining the white wall red. Shenyan didn't know that this was a girl with a pure appearance, but a dirty heart. But he knew very well that in this cruel apocalypse, any indecision would not survive. Okay, I'll help you, so at least you won't become a zombie. Looking at the body with the body parts separated on the ground, Shenyan silently closed the door. This was his first time to kill someone, but as a surgical student, he found himself calmer than he thought. Neither sad nor happy, as if he had done a very ordinary little thing. Of course, it may also be that he has seen his parents die since he was a child, and his personality has long been like this. If it weren't for Aunt King's warm light, he would probably be a cold-blooded bastard. Shaking his head, he stopped thinking about it. Shenyan silently went to the sink to wash his hands, and then opened the system panel with an expectant look. I bought a watch last year. The column for the main task is still in the state of 404 self-exploration. No, are you kidding me? I have solved the crisis I encountered. Why haven't I completed the task yet? Or did he think wrong from the beginning, and the main task has nothing to do with the crisis at all? What is the main task? Give a hint too. Shenyan was speechless. In other people's novels, when they first bind the system, they are given a novice gift pack or something. He has nothing here, and he has to figure it out on his own. I'm really impressed. Xia Yan, was there anyone knocking on the door just now? Aunt King heard the noise and came out of the bedroom. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar. In fact, although she didn't go out all night last night, it was so chaotic outside the window, with human shouts, zombies roaring, and she herself, and such a thing happened, so naturally she didn't fall asleep. She also watched the news almost all night and understood the great changes in the world. It was not until the morning that she felt sleepy, but she was woken up by the knock on the door in a daze. Yeah. Shenyan said without turning his head, and the blood on his hands was almost washed clean. He often encountered blood in the emergency department during his internship. According to his experience, it is easier to remove blood stains with cold water. Did the person knocking on the door leave? Yeah, Shenyan didn't want to tell Aunt King the truth. But then he thought, in this cruel end of the world, killing is inevitable. Is he going to keep it secret? Shenyan was silent for a moment and said a little nervously, she was bitten and could become a zombie at any time, so I killed her. Will Aunt King think he is too cold-blooded? Shenyan was quite nervous, and his expression was a bit like a child who had done something wrong. There was no way he really cared about Aunt King's feelings. Aunt King covered her mouth. Seeing this scene, Shen Yan became more nervous. Aunt King, do you think I'm going too far? Aunt King is such a gentle woman. How could she accept him killing people? Xia Wanqing did not answer this question. When she came back to her senses, there was still a trace of anger on her face. Why didn't you wake me up just now? It's over. Aunt King is really angry. Shen Yan explained with a stammer. The situation was urgent just now. I was afraid of disturbing you. Defense. Well, it was indeed a defense. Shen Yan lowered his head and was a little afraid to speak. In Aunt King's heart, her brazen killing was definitely an unforgivable fault. Do you know how dangerous zombies are? Next time you encounter something like this, don't be so stubborn. Auntie will face it with you. Do you really think that I'm a woman who is powerless? After such a big thing happened, how long can you resist it by yourself? Don't do it again. You must be hungry. Auntie will go to cook for you. So, I completely misunderstood. Auntie King didn't blame him for killing people at all, but was afraid that he would encounter danger. Shen Yan reacted and followed with a look of surprise. Auntie King, I will help you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Go to sleep in your aunt's bedroom. Xia Wanqing is gentle as water. Killing is indeed a difficult thing for her to accept. However, as a writer who often surfs the internet, she is not only not dull, but also not conservative. And because of her richer experience, she has a deeper understanding of human nature. She knows very well that, if she wants to survive in this chaotic world, any indecision is unacceptable. She even understands the meaning of the phrase "kill the Virgin Mary first when the end of the world comes." Therefore, she naturally would not blame Shen Yan, but was just worried that he would be in danger. After all, in this end of the world, she only has this one relative. And this is also her only motivation to live. If it weren't for Xia Wanqing, she would probably have jumped from the upstairs and committed suicide last night. Aunt King, do you need my help? Shen Yan said at the door of the kitchen. No, breakfast is very simple. By the way, Xia Wanqing, go take out all the basins in the house and fill them with clean water. Xia Wanqing said without looking back. The tap water may be cut off at any time, and I'm afraid that the water source will be full of zombies and pollute the water. Aunt King understands so thoroughly. Obviously, she also learned a lot about survival last night. Okay. Shen Yan nodded, went to the bathroom, and began to fill the basins with water one by one. Aunt King has so many basins, it feels like there are at least a dozen, and they are all very clean, without any dust. But, why is the shape of this basin so weird? It's elliptical, but the edge is deliberately wide, as if it needs to be placed on something to use. Shen Yan suddenly saw the toilet next to him. This basin, no matter its shape or size, seems to be just right for it. Shen Yan. He suddenly seemed to understand something, and then he couldn't help but secretly smell it with a red face. Don't get me wrong, he's just curious, not a pervert. Unfortunately, it's too clean, and there's no smell. Cough. Ignoring this basin, after filling all the basins with water, Shen Yan prepared to go out. But at this moment, he found that there was another basin at the bottom of the sink, which he hadn't seen just now. He didn't think too much about it. After bending down to get the basin out, he was ready to get the water. But with a flip of his wrist, a silky and smooth ball rolled into his hand. After a closer look, I was surprised that this was not a ball, but a small piece of cloth with silk lace. Although the small piece of cloth was rolled up into a ball, it seemed that a trace of light white could be seen. Oh my god. Feeling the moist and silky touch on his fingertips, Shen Yan's heart was moved. Could this be what Aunt King wore yesterday? After hesitating for a while, he couldn't help but pinched it carefully. The feeling of nervousness and excitement was unimaginable. However, at this moment, Aunt King's head suddenly poked in from outside the door. Have you got the water? The meal is ready, hurry up. She was only halfway through her words. Seeing Shen Yan holding her small piece of cloth, Xia Wanqing's face suddenly turned red. It was only then that she remembered that she felt too uncomfortable wearing it yesterday, so she secretly hid it when Xiaoan wasn't paying attention, and now she asked Xiaoan to use a basin to get water. It's really embarrassing. If there was a crack in the ground at this moment, the gentle Aunt Xia Wanqing, an older leftover woman, would definitely crawl into it without hesitation. Aunt King, it's really not you. Don't misunderstand me. Shen Yan was startled. He quickly threw the small cloth into the washing machine like a conditioned reflex. It's over. Aunt King won't think he is a pervert, right? Aunt King, it's really not what you think. I just wanted to get water just now. However, it would have been better if he didn't explain. The more Xia Wanqing explained, the redder her face became. She glared at him fiercely, said nothing more, and turned away. Shen Yan was very uneasy, but he could only bite the bullet, and followed him out of the bathroom. A good cook cannot cook without rice. Aunt King's cooking skills are excellent, but she can't show them without ingredients. Breakfast only has a bowl of plain noodles and 2 poached eggs. We don't have much food left. We have to save it. Eat quickly. Walking to the dining table, Shen Yan secretly glanced at Aunt King. There was no expression on her charming face, and it was impossible to tell whether she was happy or angry. Well, when it's safer outside, I'll find a way to search for supplies. If they live off their savings, they can only last for half a month with their current food reserves. And people can't just eat rice and noodles. If they lack other nutrients, they will have problems sooner or later. Yeah. Aunt King nodded slightly and said nothing more. She felt a little cold, as if she was deliberately alienating the relationship between the two. But after a while, she silently passed the poached egg in her bowl to Shen Yan. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar Aunt King. Eat quickly. Oh, Shen Yan didn't refuse again. Anyway, there is a cheat, and he will find enough supplies sooner or later, and he won't have to let Aunt King be so frugal. But then again, what is this main quest? The Riddler system is so fucking bit. If killing people is useless, can killing zombies work? Or does he need to collect enough supplies to complete it? Shen Yan really wants to try it now. After all, the sooner the system is turned on, the safer he and Aunt King will be. But he was really sleepy after not sleeping all night, and he had to recover some energy. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would be in a bad state and slow to react, which would be troublesome if he encountered danger. Aunt King, I'm done. Well, you haven't slept all night. Go to bed. Xia Wanqing still had no expression on her face, but she actually only slept for an hour or two last night. And now the outside environment is so dangerous, it is impossible for them to all rest, so she decided to wait for Shen Yan to fall asleep and stand guard herself. If there is any danger, just call me, Aunt King. Shen Yan was still naked and covered with a blanket. As he said that, he came to the sofa and lay down with his legs curled up. Although Aunt King was rich, her sofa was a little short because the living room was small. Shen Yan was 1.8 meters tall, and he couldn't stretch his legs when he lay on it. Xia Wanqing was a very careful woman. She naturally noticed this, hesitated for a moment, pursed her lips and said, "Go to Aunt's bedroom to sleep." Go to the bedroom to sleep? Shen Yan was stunned. Although he often came to Aunt King's house before, but he seldom even went into her bedroom, let alone slept on her bed. My god, this happiness came too suddenly. Aunt King added, "Go ahead, you don't want to affect your aunt by not getting enough rest, do you?" Shen Yan. He happily went to Aunt King's bedroom. Shen Yan sniffed subconsciously. There was a unique fragrance in Aunt King's bedroom, which was only found in women's boudoirs. Although the area was not large, it was very clean. The wardrobe, bedside table, and windowsill were all wiped spotlessly. The bed was covered with a silk summer quilt. Shen Yan crawled in naked and could even feel her body temperature, which had just left. So happy. And from this point of view, the end of the world doesn't seem to be a bad thing. Sniffing the pillow and the quilt covered with the remaining fragrance of Aunt King, which was clear and elegant, like daffodils, Shen Yan gradually closed his eyes and slept very sweetly. Chapter 9. Auntie is waiting for you to come back. The first time he slept on Aunt King's bed, Shen Yan thought he would have a sweet dream. But when he opened his eyes again, It was already afternoon, as if only a moment had passed. I didn't expect that I would sleep so soundly. Shen Yan felt a little sorry. However, deep sleep is very helpful for restoring energy. He yawned and sat up from the bed. His physical fatigue had been swept away, and he felt refreshed. Aunt King, walking out of the bedroom, Shen Yan was about to speak, but subconsciously closed his mouth again. Aunt King was lying on the sofa at this moment, her eyes closed, breathing evenly. She should have fallen asleep. She had changed her pink nightgown into a yoga suit, and there was a yoga mat on the floor beside the sofa. Obviously, she must have done yoga before. Aunt King is too self-disciplined. It's the end of the world, but she still insists on doing yoga every day. Shen Yan shook his head, walked to the sofa, and called softly, "Aunt King." He was going to go out to see if he could complete the main task and search for some supplies by the way. He was very worried about leaving Aunt King alone at home. "Aunt King, wake up Aunt King." Shen Yan called again, but Aunt King still didn't respond. Last night was so chaotic, Aunt King probably didn't sleep well. Shen Yan was not surprised. The world has changed dramatically, and I'm afraid last night was a sleepless night for everyone. Aunt King probably felt relieved and fell asleep now that she was safer. Otherwise, she would definitely not sleep so soundly. There was no response after calling her twice. Called twice but no response. Aunt King is sleeping very soundly now. My god. Thump thump. Shen Yan's heartbeat began to accelerate uncontrollably. He could hardly control himself and squatted down with courage to take a close look at Aunt King's fairy-like face. Although he often saw Aunt King before and would secretly look at her when he had nothing to do, he had never been so close. Aunt King has an oval face that is happy and angry, and the lines of her facial features are gentle and soft, especially her skin. Although she didn't apply any makeup, it was white and rosy, and it felt more delicate than the skin of a young girl. Coupled with the charm unique to mature women, it was very tempting. I really want to take a bite on Aunt King's red and tender lips. Shen Yan's mouth was very dry, but he still resisted the impulse in his heart, and his eyes swept across Aunt King's soft jaw and white neck, and continued to move down. Aunt King's beige yoga clothes were long-sleeved, covering most of her skin, but they were very tight, and her towering chest curves and flat belly were all visible. However, at this moment, Aunt King snorted lightly. Seeing Shen Yan's enthusiasm, he was instantly startled. However, Aunt King did not seem to wake up. She just turned over and turned from lying on her side to lying flat. Shen Yan breathed a sigh of relief with a guilty conscience, and then calmed down a little. Forget it, let's not disturb Aunt King's rest, let her sleep for a while. Shen Yan thought of this and prepared to get up and leave. But at this moment, I don't know if it was because the sofa was too small and uncomfortable, or if the room was a little hot. Aunt King subconsciously pulled her chest. This yoga suit was a very expensive brand, and the zipper was very smooth. It pulled her finger under her chest. Shen Yan's eyes were instantly straightened. Although Aunt King was wearing a tube top inside, as an A-level strongman, she was really magnificent. The white flesh exposed at the edge of the tube top made people imagine. Gudang. Shen Yan swallowed his saliva subconsciously. He had the urge to press it secretly with his fingers. Just for a moment. Aunt King is sleeping so soundly, she will definitely not notice. After these thoughts appeared in his mind, he couldn't get rid of them. After a long silence, seeing that Aunt King still showed no signs of waking up, Shen Yan finally couldn't help it, took a deep breath, and stretched out his hand tremblingly. But at this moment, Aunt King turned over again, her head facing the inside of the sofa, her back facing him. Just a little bit. Shen Yan felt so sorry. However, his eyes were soon attracted by the dark grey tight yoga pants that Aunt King was wearing. Seeing the round and full curve of her buttocks, his breathing paused for a moment. Gudang, the designer who invented yoga pants, is worthy of being enshrined in the Imperial Temple. This work is compiled and uploaded by Liu Jiubokba. Shen Yan swallowed again. Then, almost subconsciously, he reached out again. He was at the age of blood and vigor. How could he resist such temptation? The next second, Shen Yan's heart almost stopped beating when he touched the amazing softness. However, before he could feel it carefully, Aunt King's voice rang in his ears. Xiao Yan. Huh. Shen Yan's hands trembled, and his hair stood up in fear. It's over. It's over. Why did Aunt King wake up suddenly? Aunt King is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen in his life, with a good figure and a good personality, and she is completely impeccable. But even if she is gentle, she will inevitably feel resentful when she sees this side of him now, right? And it will be difficult for them to restore their previous relationship. Xia Wanqing, what are you doing? Aunt King woke up completely, turned her head with some doubts, and asked lazily. Shen Yan was completely panicked. Even if he pulled back his hand now, Aunt King would definitely remember the touch just now. What should he do? How should he explain it? In a hurry, Shen Yan really thought of an excuse, and tried to use a calm tone to say, Aunt King, you are awake. I saw that you were sleeping very uncomfortably on the sofa, so I wanted to carry you to the bed. In this way, it is reasonable for him to accidentally touch some parts that should not be touched, right? Oh. Xia Wanqing really didn't doubt it, and said a little embarrassedly, Aunt was thinking about waiting for you to wake up, but I didn't expect you to fall asleep first. Well, it's okay, Aunt. Then I won't hold you. Go to bed by yourself. Remember to cover yourself with a quilt. Don't catch a cold. Shen Yan quietly pulled back his hand and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was smart, and it was a close call. No need, Aunt is not so sleepy now. Sleep at night. The external environment is so dangerous now, and Xia Wanqing can't sleep well. Okay, Aunt King, you stay safe at home. I'm just going to search for supplies. No one would not be afraid of such a terrifying monster as zombies. Shen Yan was the same, but he knew in his heart that, if he wanted to survive, he had to overcome any fear, even if he couldn't. Auntie will go with you. Xia Wanqing didn't want Shen Yan to take risks alone, so she struggled to sit up. No need, Aunt King, 2 people will make more noise, and if I get into danger, you can help me open the door quickly when I come back. But, Aunt King, I remember the spare key of my house. Just put it in your shoe cabinet. I'll go home and put on some clothes first, and then go to search for supplies. Shen Yan didn't wait for Aunt King to say anything else, and turned around and took out the spare key from the shoe cabinet. Xia Wanqing pursed her lips, and before Shen Yan went out, she took the initiative to hold his hand, and said reluctantly, you must come back alive. Auntie will wait for you at home. Aunt King's palm was also so gentle. Yeah. Shen Yan nodded heavily. His heart was warmed, but he also felt sorry. Why did Aunt King just hold his hand instead of giving him a big hug? Chapter 10. Going out to search for supplies. After saying goodbye to Aunt King, through the peephole, I saw that there were no zombies in the corridor. Shen Yan took a deep breath and brazenly pushed open the security door. Outside the door, the body of the girl next door was gone. She couldn't turn into a zombie after her head was chopped off. As fresh flesh and blood, she would have been dragged away and eaten clean by other zombies, right? The corridor was very quiet, and the other zombies were nowhere to be seen. But the disgusting strong smell of blood still lingered. Shen Yan calmed himself, turned the door lock, and opened his own security door. The afternoon sun shone on the living room, and the floating and sinking particles in the light could be seen clearly. When he returned home again, Shen Yan felt as if he was in another world. Who would have thought that he was still taking a shower the moment before, and when he came back he was already in the end of the world. But now is not the time to be sentimental. After changing into a set of autumn sportswear with stronger bite resistance, and putting on a hat and gloves to cover himself tightly, Shen Yan put on a backpack, held a kitchen knife, and walked out of the house again. He had 2 goals this time. 1. To kill at least 1 zombie to see if he could complete the main task and exercise his courage. 2. To collect as many supplies as possible to make life easier for himself and Aunt King. Be on guard all the way. Shen Yan walked up the stairs carefully. This building has a total of 7 floors. He plans to explore the situation inside the building first to see if there are any zombies, and if he can find a fire axe. On the 4th floor, the security doors on both sides are closed. The same is true for the 5th floor, but just standing at the door on the right, Shen Yan smelled a strong smell of blood, and even heard a faint roar and swallowing sounds. Dang dang dang. Shen Yan knocked on the door gently with the back of the knife. Soon, there were messy footsteps from inside, followed by the sound of fingers scratching the security door, and a low roar. When Aunt King and I were trapped last night, it seemed that it was the people from this family who opened the door and led away the zombies. Shen Yan didn't know why the door was closed again, but the people inside must have turned into zombies long ago. Shen Yan mourned for a moment before continuing to explore upwards. Although this family didn't mean well, it saved his and Aunt King's lives anyway. The security doors on the 6th and 7th floors were also closed. However, in the middle of the corridor on the 7th floor, Shen Yan finally saw the firebox he had been thinking about. The box was red all over, half a person's height, and had white words on it saying Fire Alarm 119. Finally found you. Shen Yan was quite excited. The fire axe is almost the most powerful weapon that ordinary people can find in a short period of time. But as soon as he got closer, he found that the lock on the firebox was gone, as if it had been opened by someone. Maybe they left it unlocked because they were afraid that it would be inconvenient to open the door when a fire broke out. Shen Yan held the last bit of hope and opened the fire door. There were all kinds of things inside, including portable fire extinguishers, fire emergency lights, gas masks, fire hoses, and almost all firefighting equipment. It was obvious that there were special people maintaining it, but there was no fire axe. Moreover, Shen Yan also saw the dust outline left when the fire axe was taken away. This shows that there are other living people in the building, and they acted earlier than him. Shen Yan couldn't help but frown. Not to mention that he didn't get such a powerful weapon as a fire axe. This person is also a potential danger. Although they are all neighbors, it's okay now in the end of the world. After the food runs out in the future, who can guarantee that everything will be fine? No, we have to complete the main task as soon as possible and turn on the system as soon as possible. Shen Yan no longer hesitated. He held the kitchen knife tightly and explored downstairs again. He had explored the 3rd to 7th floors. There were no zombies on the 2nd floor, but there was a long blood stain from the door along the stairs all the way down. There were no zombies on the 1st floor either. In this way, as long as the unit door is closed, it will be much safer to move around in the building. But before Shen Yan could be happy, he saw a thin silver-haired old lady with half of her body covered in blood standing with her back to him, legs spread and head tilted at the pillar of the unit door. Shen Yan knew her, the disgusting old lady downstairs. She lived alone here, rarely visited her children, and loved to take advantage of others. The corridor on the 2nd floor was very crowded because she regarded this public area as her home. Shoe cabinets, pickle jars, and even paper shells picked up were piled in the corridor. Sometimes when you go home at night, you will trip if you are not careful. I thought it was a disaster that would last for thousands of years, so it's a good death. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bokba. Shen Yan felt relieved. But the problem now is that the old style unit door is very heavy and it takes at least some time to close it. It is almost impossible not to disturb it. Since I can't avoid it, I'm afraid there is only one choice. Shen Yan thought of this. He took a deep breath and knocked the handrail of the stairs with the back of the kitchen knife nervously. This old lady is only about 1.5 meters tall, and she should be the worst among the zombies. It's just right to try her out and see if she can complete the main task. Bang! The sound of metal hitting each other is very crisp. Although the sound is not loud, it instantly attracts its attention. Roar! The next second, she turned her head suddenly and rushed over with a roar. Although she is old, her speed at this moment is extremely fast, almost the same as that of an ordinary person. Moreover, half of her face is bloody and her grey-white eyeballs are bulging outwards, exuding primitive ferocity, which looks extremely fascinating. Shen Yan's heart shuddered, but his hands did not move, too flustered. Under the stimulation of adrenaline, he didn't swing the knife hard until she was completely close. Puff! The next second, the knife light flashed, and the blade accurately embedded in the old lady's skull. The latter twitched a few times, and then completely stopped moving. Shen Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Although this old lady ran very fast, it was not at all like her usual speed. But at least after becoming a zombie, her defense didn't seem to be improved much. This is a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, each zombie is like a Superman, and he and Aunt King don't have to struggle. Joining them earlier can save them some suffering. Killed with one blow. Shen didn't feel too excited. Although it was his first time facing zombies, he was a surgical student after all. He was not bad in both psychological quality and knife skills. It was completely reasonable for him to do these. And he also found a very troublesome thing. After the kitchen knife was embedded in the solid skull, he could only step on the old lady's face and use all his strength to barely pull it out. It's okay to face a zombie alone, but if there are more than two, you can only run away. It would be better if it was a fire axe. Even if it was stuck in the skull, it should be able to be taken out with a slight push under the principle of leverage. Shen felt quite sorry, but fortunately, he had killed a zombie, and the mainline pre-task should be completed, right? Thinking of this, he opened the system panel with great anticipation. Chapter 11 Horrible Human Nature. System startup failed. Please complete the mainline pre-task. Mainline pre-task description. 404. Please explore on your own. No way. Killing zombies doesn't work. Seeing that the mainline task was still in the 404 state, Shen really had the urge to curse. But now he was not completely desperate. He hadn't tried to collect supplies yet. And it might be that the number of zombies killed was not enough. For example, killing 5 or 10 to start. There was no choice but to keep trying. I'll go search for supplies later. Close the unit door first. After the unit door was closed, at least it would be much safer to move around in the building. The blade rubbed against the old lady's clothes, wiped off the blood. Shen quietly came to the door, turned sideways and looked outside. It was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the hot summer sun seemed to distort the air. There were a few zombies standing listlessly by the flower bed in the community square, giving people the illusion that I could beat 10 of these weak chicken zombies. But after the battle with the old lady zombie, Shen knew very well that they were extremely powerful, but they just had no target to attack now. I can't believe that such a terrifying thing can appear in reality one day. Until now, Shen still had a strong sense of unreality in his heart. But the facts were already determined, and there was no point in thinking so much. He no longer hesitated, took a deep breath, and began to pull the unit door quickly. Squeaky. This old unit door was heavier than expected, and it might have been too long, since it was closed, and the hinges were almost rusted, making a particularly obvious sound. The zombies by the flower bed were almost immediately attracted by the sound, roaring and crawling over. Hurry, hurry, faster. Shen was very anxious. He almost used up all his strength, but the speed of the door was still slow. And after closing only 1/3 of the distance, the door seemed to be stuck by something, and no matter how hard he tried, it would not move forward at all. It's over. Shen was desperate. At this time, the zombies had crossed the flower bed, and were less than halfway to him. Even if there was nothing stuck in the door, he would definitely not have time to close it, not to mention that he didn't even know what was stuck in the door. However, at this moment, a woman's shrill scream suddenly came from the opposite side. Ah! Go away, ugly thing, go away. Subconsciously looking for the sound, Shen saw a man and a woman who looked like a couple, holding hands and running in the square, with several zombies chasing behind. The woman's cry also instantly attracted the attention of the zombies here. They quickly left Shen and joined the pursuit. Shen was stunned for a moment. Then he reacted, and didn't dare to delay any more time. He hurriedly lowered his head to look for it. This time he was lucky. He soon found that it was a small section of bolt that stuck the door. After taking out the bolt, although the door was still closed very slowly, it was unobstructed, and no longer blocked. The last moment before the door was about to close. In Shen sight, the man and the woman were almost caught up by the zombies. But just when he thought that both of them were doomed, the woman suddenly pushed the man to the ground, and then ran away without looking back. The man struggled to get up from the ground, without moving or running. He looked at the woman going away, as if he was desperate, thinking that there was no point in escaping. Finally, he calmly closed his eyes, and was thrown to the ground by the zombies. Human nature is indeed more terrifying than zombies. Shen had never expected this result. Suddenly, he found that he seemed to have a clearer understanding of human nature. Everyone fled when disaster struck. I'm afraid that there is no one else in the world who is trustworthy except Aunt King. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. After the door was completely closed, Shen Yan inserted the bolt again, and then he was temporarily relieved. Although the door was old, it was made of cast iron. At least it was unlikely that zombies would come in a short time. That was close. Without the couple, it would be almost impossible for him to close the door. After calming down, Shen Yan thought about it and started knocking on the door from house to house. Knowing yourself and your enemy, he wanted to count how many survivors there were in the building. At the same time, after confirming that no one was in that house, he could just take away the supplies from that house. Bang! Is anyone there? This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar Bang. Are you there? It's safe for now. I'm a neighbor on the 3rd floor. After knocking on the door, Shen Yan didn't get any response. But when he was on the 7th floor, he seemed to hear the sound of a stool moving inside the door. There are really not many survivors. Shen Yan didn't feel too surprised. It's summer now, and most people have the habit of going out to enjoy the cool at night. And at the moment, when the apocalypse broke out, the sunset was so beautiful that most people must have gone out to see it, which led to many people not being able to come back in the end. But this is a good thing. The fewer survivors, the less competitive pressure, and the more supplies can be found. I just don't know if the fire axe was taken away by the man on the 7th floor. Shen Yan remembered that the resident on the 7th floor seemed to be a bald man with flower arms, and he was also a drug addict. If the axe was with him, it would be even more troublesome. It's time to turn on the system. Shen Yan's sense of crisis became stronger. Then he stopped hesitating and prepared to search for supplies. But at this time, he found another very difficult problem: how to open the door. The security doors from the 1st to the 7th floor are all closed. And this old-fashioned security door is very strong, and it is almost impossible to break it open by brute force. To unlock, unless you have superb skills, you also need very professional unlocking tools. Shen Yan is a college student who has just graduated. He is not a professional talent, so he naturally doesn't have such a very difficult skill as unlocking. Don't even think about professional unlocking tools. There are such things, but they are in the unlocking shop at the entrance of the community. Now it's the end of the world. He doesn't mind going to buy it for free, but there are zombies outside, and he will be blinded when he goes out. Shen Yan is quite a headache. But giving up searching for supplies is impossible. In the end, there was really no other way, so he simply took out his own key and tried all the security doors from the 1st floor to the 7th floor, as if he had a stroke of luck. Unfortunately, none of them could be opened. He poked it with a piece of wire, but it was useless. Shen Yan sighed and suddenly felt a little discouraged. The importance of supplies is self-evident. Even if they can only get supplies for one family, he and Aunt King can hold on for a few more days. But now the supplies are clearly inside the door, but he has no way to get in. No. If I remember correctly, didn't he just chop an old lady? Then she should have her own key on her, right? Thinking of this, Shen Yan's eyes lit up, and he immediately ran to the 1st floor again. Chapter 12 Confession to Aunt King. The old lady's body was still on the 1st floor. Half of her body was covered in blood, her skin was dark and blue, and her head was split in the middle. It looked extremely scary, but Shen Yan didn't care about that. He held back his nausea and searched all her pockets. Where's the key? But except for some change, Shen Yan didn't find anything. It shouldn't be. The bloodstains on the stairs extend from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor. She should have been caught by the zombies and taken off before going home. How could the key disappear? Shen Yan was puzzled and helpless. The supplies for a house, even if the old lady was stingy, there must be important food such as rice, flour, grain, and oil at home. As long as they were collected, he and Aunt King could hold on for a few more days. But if he couldn't find the key, no matter how much he wanted, what could he do if he couldn't open the door? Hey, why do I feel that nothing goes well after the end of the world? Is my luck so bad? Shen Yan really had no choice. He could only walk upstairs helplessly. After going out for a while and finding nothing, He didn't even know how to explain to Aunt King. Even if Aunt King was gentle and wouldn't blame him, he would still feel embarrassed. But before he had taken a few steps, his feet suddenly stopped, and he felt like he had stepped on something hard. What is this? Shen Yan moved his feet away in confusion and took a closer look. Oh my. The corridor was too dark, and he actually walked back and forth several times without seeing it. Although it was covered with blood, this was definitely a house key. Did the key accidentally fall out when the old lady was attacked by zombies? Shen Yan was quite surprised. He didn't care whether it was dirty or not. He immediately picked up the key and ran to the second floor excitedly. Click. As expected, his guess was right. He turned the key gently, and the security door on the second floor opened. Nice. Shen Yan waved his fist silently. Then he pulled out a kitchen knife and walked in cautiously. The house was very quiet, and you could smell the unique musty smell of the elderly. But it was very clean and tidy, and the sunlight shone in from the window, and there was even a warm smell. Shen Yan was not surprised. Although the old lady loved to pick up garbage, the bad things were piled outside the door. No more time was wasted. It took Shen Yan about half an hour to search the house carefully. He collected almost all the useful materials and then put them in the living room and began to count. Rice. 13 catties, white flour. 25 catties, soybean oil. 7 liters. Vegetables, meat, eggs, fruits, as expected, were very few. Moreover, most of the price tags were cheap goods with special offers. It was obvious that the old lady must go to whichever supermarket nearby had a discount. But it was the end of the world, and any food was precious. Shen Yan was still very excited. With these foods, he and Aunt King could at least hold on for more than half a month. What's more, the biggest gain this time was not food, but medicine and weapons. This old lady must be sick often, and she is unwilling to go to the hospital and spend more money. The family has almost everything including penicillin, antipyretics, cold medicine, iodine, and bandages. There were even unopened syringes, which filled up 2 large plastic bags. It goes without saying how important medicine is in the end times. In this way, he and Aunt King will not have to worry about colds, fevers, or wound infections in the future. And medicine is not the biggest gain of this trip. Shen Yan actually found 7 sharp kitchen knives in this old lady's house. With her greedy personality, it stands to reason that an ordinary kitchen knife would have to be used for more than 10 years. But Shen Yan had seen these kitchen knives in the kitchen knife scam at the entrance of the community before, claiming that they could cut nails and iron. Needless to say, this old lady must have been deceived by those unscrupulous vendors. Although this kitchen knife can't cut iron, it can still cut people. With so many kitchen knives, Shen Yan will have the confidence to face more zombies at once, and his sense of security will be doubled. I didn't expect to find so many useful things. Shen Yan was in a good mood. It feels really good to search the house. In addition to food, medicine, and weapons, the old lady's house also has several large white plastic barrels. Later, he could take them all back and continue to collect purified water. In this way, even if the water supply is cut off, he and Aunt King can use it for a long time. I just don't know if he has completed the pre-tasks for the main line after obtaining so many supplies. I bought a watch last year. When he opened the system panel again, it was still in the 404 state. Shen Yan's good mood disappeared instantly. He couldn't kill people, kill zombies, or search for supplies. Was a pre-task so difficult? Or did he not find the right direction from beginning to end? Pre-task. Pre-task. The 2 words pre-task are undoubtedly very important, indicating that a series of events will be launched. What are the series of events? Shen Yan pondered silently, and suddenly, he really thought of one. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu book bar dating Aunt King must be considered a series of events, right? Then the precondition for launching this series of events is to confess to Aunt King? Thinking of this, Shen Yan's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Confessing to Aunt King, this was something he had never dared to think about before. And if he fails, he won't even know how to face Aunt King in the future. What should I do? Should I give it a try? Shen Yan was quite conflicted. If it was before the end of the world, he might not even dare to have this idea. After all, he and Aunt King were far apart in age and economic conditions. But now it's the end of the world, and he has tried all the methods he should try. In addition to confessing, does he really have any other choice? Fight. After making up his mind, Shen Yan breathed a sigh of relief, no longer hesitated, and moved the supplies back to the 3rd floor. Xia Wanqing is back. As soon as he arrived at the 3rd floor, the door of Aunt King's house opened. Obviously, Aunt King was worried about his safety, and had been waiting at the door for a long time. Yeah. Shen Yan felt warm in his heart. Don't stand there stupidly, come in quickly, are you injured? Aunt King said as she hurriedly pulled Shen Yan into the house, and took off the large and small bags on his body, and put them on the ground. I'm fine, Aunt King. Shen Yan cooperated to put the things down. In his heart, he was thinking about how to confess to her. Say it directly? No, it's too direct. Regardless of whether he has the courage or not, even in order to increase the probability of success, he needs a more suitable opportunity. Really, you didn't lie to me? Aunt King, who was completely unaware of the situation, asked with concern. Really, I closed the door of the unit. There are no zombies in the building for the time being. It's very safe. Shen Yan deliberately skipped the dangerous part. In fact, if the couple hadn't led the zombies away, it would be hard to say whether he could come back now. It's good that you're not injured. It's good that you're not injured. I was worried to death when you were away for several hours. At this point, Xia Wanqing's eyes suddenly turned red. She really couldn't imagine if Xia Wanqing really died outside, would she still have the courage to continue living? But Shen Yan's eyes lit up when he saw her like this. Aunt King's mood is very unstable now, which is a very suitable opportunity to confess. Aunt King. Taking a deep breath, Shen Yan was ready to confess. Chapter 13 Aunt King, I like you. She secretly wiped the corners of her eyes. Xia Wanqing didn't want Shen Yan to see her emotions. She turned around and squatted on the ground and began to organize the messy supplies. She changed into a conservative home dress at this moment and put on white cotton socks on her feet. But the sensory stimulation given to Shen Yan was undoubtedly stronger. Aunt King looked like a housekeeper at this moment. Because she was half kneeling on the ground, the soles of her feet were separated from the slippers, and the beautiful arch of her foot was in full view. However, Shen Yan had no time to appreciate the beautiful scenery. He said nervously, Aunt King, I like Xixi. Aunt King put down the celery in her hand and turned back and said, what? Xixi. Shen Yan was so anxious that he almost sweated. But this mouth seemed to be sealed, and the words I like you could not be said. Aunt King, this is the woman he has liked since his youth. Gentle and virtuous, beautiful as a fairy. Of course, Shen Yan wanted to express his feelings for her, but he couldn't help but worry about gains and losses, and dared not face his failure. Wash clothes? Aunt King looked as if she had suddenly realized something, and said with a smile, just tell me if you want to wash clothes. Are you embarrassed? No. Oh, the clothes are all at home, right? Go get them. I just happen to have nothing to do now. Oh, no, Aunt King. Being interrupted by Aunt King, Shen Yan's courage that he had finally mustered up instantly disappeared, and he didn't know how to speak. Silly, you are still polite to your aunt, right? Xia Wanqing ignored Shen Yan, snatched the key, turned around and opened the security door of Shen Yan's house. It's so dangerous outside now. You and your aunt really have to live together and pack up your things by the way. Shen Yan almost couldn't help but slap himself. It's really useless. But this can't be completely blamed on him. In a way, Aunt King is his first love, and she is also an elder. Which man would not be nervous? After all, the more you like someone, the more you care about her. If it weren't for the end of the world, he wouldn't even dare to have the idea of confessing. Aunt King, I'll help you. Well, let's move the things first. And he also organized his words in his mind. He was too hasty just now, and he really didn't think of what to say. Shen Yan lives alone and lived on campus when he was in college. If it weren't for Aunt King, his house would be boring, so there would be very few things. In addition to some clothes for changing, there are very few pots and pans. The most important thing is probably the 500G hard drive and the study materials inside. It took almost an hour for the two to pack up, and then they returned to Aunt King's house again with large and small packages. You play by yourself first, Auntie will go to wash clothes. Now the water hasn't stopped, just wash all the clothes, Xia Wanqing said, picking up a large bag of clothes and walking into the bathroom. Then she didn't put them in the washing machine and began to pick and choose. Shen Yan's dirty socks and underwear were still in it. He couldn't help but blush and said, Aunt King, what are you looking for? There are so many clothes. Just use the washing machine. The washing machine can't wash them very clean. Aunt King will pick out the dirty ones and rub them yourself. At this time, Aunt King just happened to turn over a pair of pants. Shen Yan was a little anxious. Oh, Aunt King, really don't need to. I don't have so many fusses. Be good, or I will beat you. Xia Wanqing ignored him and gently picked out all of Shen Yan's pants and socks and then put them in the basin, rubbing them up and down with her fair little hands. Shen Yan, who was standing behind her, really had no choice. So he decided to break the jar and began to organize the words of confession in his mind. And as if to give himself courage, his eyes began to be dishonest. Anyway, Aunt King was washing clothes and he didn't know how he looked at him. Shen Yan's eyes were wantonly looking at Aunt King's hair, his neck, shoulders, back, hips, beautiful legs and white cotton socks. Wow, I can't believe how happy he will be in the future if his confession is successful. Praise the end of the world. After watching it wantonly for a while, Shen Yan's courage was really enough and he organized his words in his mind. At this time, Aunt King had just finished rubbing the dirty places and got up and put them in the washing machine. Opportunity cannot be missed. When Aunt King turned around, Shen Yan was afraid that he would retreat again. He didn't hesitate anymore, gritted his teeth, and said very abruptly, Aunt King, I like you. My god, I finally said it. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar at this moment. Shen Yan's heartbeat soared to 1800, and it seemed that he could even hear the sound of his own heartbeat. Bang, bang, bang. Xia Wanqing's body was obviously stiff, and she didn't say a word. Shen Yan couldn't care less. Although he stuttered a little, he spoke out his true feelings. Aunt King, when I was 8 years old, you started to take care of me. At that time, I began to like you. At first, I thought it was family affection, but later I found that it was not the case at all. I also know that this is not right. Oh, I don't know how to say it, but I really like you very much, to the bone. Aunt King, can you date me? Xia Wanqing still said nothing. Shen Yan was in great pain and his face turned red. After all, this was his first time to confess to a lady. He was in a state of confusion. Aunt King, please say something. Time was still passing. Although only a dozen seconds had passed, it felt to Shen Yan as if 10,000 years had passed. Finally, Aunt King turned around and looked at Shen Yan in a daze. Then, as if she remembered something, she hurriedly said, Xia Yan, you must be hungry. Aunt, I'll make you dinner. Without waiting for Shen Yan's consent, she walked out of the bathroom. Then, she almost fell down while moving something on the floor. Shen Yan wanted to help her, but she also waved her hand to refuse. But when she walked forward, she almost fell down again. It's over. Aunt King refused. Shen Yan felt disappointed, but he didn't feel too surprised. With the difference in their grades and Aunt King being so outstanding, it would be abnormal to agree, right? Hey, he should have thought of this a long time ago, and he shouldn't have any extravagant hopes in his heart. Sitting on the floor dejectedly, Shen Yan suddenly wanted to drink some wine and get drunk. Ouch. However, at this moment, Aunt King suddenly exclaimed in the kitchen. What's wrong, Aunt King? Shen Yan hurriedly got up and ran over. It's okay. I was scalded by the steam. Aunt King blew her hands, but didn't look back. Shen Yan wanted to say something, but suddenly froze. Aunt King almost fell down twice just now, and now she was scalded by steam. Does that mean that she is very confused now? At the same time, it also means that she is not indifferent to his confession? Yes, if she didn't care, Aunt King would never act so flustered. So it was a complete misunderstanding just now. Although Aunt King didn't agree, she didn't refuse either. Does he still have a chance? Thinking of this, Shen Yan was instantly excited. Well, then confess again. Chapter 14. It's done. It's finally done. Dinner. Aunt King made stir-fried celery with meat and spinach with vermicelli. It was a very ordinary meal, but it seemed very luxurious in this doomsday. But there was nothing we could do. Vegetables, even if they were put in the refrigerator, would eventually have a limited shelf life. Besides, we didn't know when the power would be cut off. Eat it quickly. We don't know if it's delicious. Aunt King was much more normal at this time, but she still tried to avoid Shen Yan's eyes. Well, everything Aunt makes will be delicious. While looking for an opportunity to confess again, Shen Yan picked up his chopsticks and took a bite of spinach. Oh my god, it's so salty. Shen Yan almost couldn't help but spit it out. But he became more and more excited in his heart. It was obvious that Aunt King was very confused now because he performed so abnormally. Seeing him like this, Xia Wanqing also took a bite of spinach, then frowned. It seems that salt has been added twice. You eat celery and I'll eat spinach. No, Aunt, let's eat together. Shen Yan's mind was no longer on the food. While eating quickly, he organized his words in his mind again. Xia Wanqing didn't say anything else. She lowered her head and ate in small bites. No one knew what she was thinking about. Then, maybe the spinach was too salty. She seemed to want to get up and reach the water cup. Seeing this, Shen Yan hurriedly handed it over. Then, without paying attention, his fingertips gently touched Aunt King's warm little hand. Shen Yan's heart was moved, and the words buried in his heart came out again. Aunt King, I really like you. Be my girlfriend. Xia Wanqing was stunned again. Her hand stopped in midair. It was not right to take the water cup, and it was not right not to take it. Shen Yan had confessed once, and this time his tone was much more coherent. Aunt King, although there is a gap in our ages, from childhood to adulthood, I have never seen a woman as beautiful and virtuous as you. I don't know if you still have any concerns, but if possible, can you give me a chance? Swish. This time he could clearly feel that Aunt King's face instantly turned red, but she hesitated to the end and still withdrew her hand. Xia Wanqing, you said this too suddenly. Aunt really didn't prepare for it at all. Wow, there is indeed a play. Shen Yan couldn't help but say, I also know it's very sudden, but it's the end of the world, and I may die at any time. I'm really afraid that one day I will never come back after I go out, and I won't be able to see you again. This sentence seems to be very effective. Xia Wanqing hesitated, opened her mouth, and hesitated to speak. But in the end she didn't continue this topic, stood up and said, Aunt is full. First, go back to the bedroom first. After that, she stood up and left the table. Looking at Aunt King's back, Shen Yan felt a little sorry. But this time he was not too disappointed. There is a play, really a play. Although Aunt King didn't agree, she didn't explicitly refuse. Most likely, she just couldn't get over the hurdle in her heart, and she still needed time to accept it. Do you want to give Aunt King a few more days? No, confession may be the key to opening the system. The sooner the better. Shen Yan decided to strike while the iron is still. But he didn't rush to act. He felt that the biggest reason for the failure of the first two confessions was that he was a little abrupt. After all, Aunt King, as a great writer, is a socially anxious otaku who stays at home and has a thin skin. So this time he needs to be more tactful, and he can't let Aunt King leave with any excuses. In short, he wants to kill her with one blow. Oh no, one blow. What strategy should I adopt? Shen Yan pondered silently. Then, he really thought of a very suitable method for the current situation. After eating all the food without wasting it, Shen Yan took a deep breath and came to Aunt King's bedroom. Aunt King, are you asleep? Xia Wanqing didn't say anything, but Shen Yan heard the creaking sound of the bed when she turned over. Aunt King, I know you are not asleep. I have nothing else to do. I'm a little bored at night. Let's watch a movie together. Still no words. Shen Yan thought about it and continued. Aunt, I want to use your computer, but I forgot the password. Aunt King's house is a 2-bedroom apartment of more than 60 square meters. She turned the side bedroom into a study room, and the computer was inside. Bang! This time the door finally opened. Xia Wanqing walked to the side bedroom with an expressionless face, ignoring Shen Yan the whole time, and turned on her Apple laptop. However, although her attitude seemed a bit bad, after the computer was turned on, she did not return to her bedroom, but just sat quietly aside. Shen Yan was delighted. It was done. The first step of watching a movie with Aunt King was done, but what movie should be played next? It can't be too vulgar, it can't be too scary, and it's better to be ambiguous. Got it. Shen Yan didn't ask Aunt King for her opinion, opened the webpage, and directly entered the name of the movie, The Beautiful Legend of Sicily. Fortunately, the internet is not disconnected now, otherwise all efforts will be in vain. After Shen Yan finished all this, he moved a small stool, turned off the lights, and sat down next to Aunt King with eager eyes. It is normal to turn off the lights when watching a movie, and the movie started at this time. Xia Wanqing frowned, but didn't say anything else. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes stared at the picture on the screen quietly. This movie is about a woman named Melina, who came to Sicily with wavy black hair, fashionable short skirts and stockings, and elegant steps. This is the hometown of the boy Renato. Like all young boys, he is innocent and restless. When he first met Melina, he was attracted by her every move. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar elegant and intellectual. Her every move is so eye-catching, and her every frown and smile breaks the hearts of countless men. Young Renato fell into her vortex uncontrollably. From then on, he rode a bicycle and shuttled through every corner of the small town on the island, chasing Melina's seductive and plump figure and peeping into her life. Everything about her, her figure, her clothes, her preferences, have become the most beautiful fantasy of the teenager. And this movie is also the most realistic portrayal of Shen Yan and Xia Wanqing. Gradually, under the weak light of the computer, Xia Wanqing's face became a little hazy. An ambiguous atmosphere began to flow in the room. Shen Yan's palms were sweating with nervousness. Now was probably the best opportunity. Should he hold Aunt King's hand? Would Aunt King think that he was touching her and being frivolous? But would it be a pity to miss this opportunity? After struggling to the end, Shen Yan's eyes gradually became firm. He could no longer be indecisive. He had to try. At this time, the movie happened to be playing a very critical plot. Shen Yan took a deep breath, reached out, and directly held Aunt King's white and tender little hand in his hand. But the next second, Xia Wanqing whooshed and pulled her hand out. Aunt King hid. Shen Yan was very depressed. But Aunt King didn't scold him, nor did she go back to her bedroom. She didn't seem to resist too much. After calming down, Shen Yan, who was really unwilling, touched Aunt King's hand again and held it. Aunt King pulled again, but this time he held it very tightly and was determined not to let go. Xia Wanqing finally couldn't help it anymore. She turned her head and glared at Shen Yan. "You only know how to bully your aunt." But she said that, but she didn't struggle anymore. She let Shen Yan hold her hand, turned her head back, and didn't look at him angrily. Shen Yan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he let go completely, and simply tried to pinch Aunt King's little hand again. No response. He rubbed it again, and suddenly, Aunt King's soft little hand moved, and then she couldn't help but pinched him hard. It was a little painful, but Shen Yan didn't care, and spread his 5 fingers, and inserted them into Aunt King's fingers. This way of holding hands is extremely intimate. Xia Wanqing's body stiffened, but after a moment, she slowly closed her fingers, and held Shen Yan back. Oh my god. Shen Yan was so excited, that he almost jumped up on the spot. It worked. Holding hands with Aunt King finally worked. I just don't know. Aunt King didn't refuse the handshake. Does that mean he succeeded in confessing his love? Aunt King, be my girlfriend? Aunt King didn't say anything. Shen Yan was uneasy and wanted to ask another question. But at this moment, a line of subtitles suddenly appeared in front of him. Ding. Congratulations to the host for the successful confession. The main pre-task has been completed, and the system's first stage function has been activated. Although Aunt King did not agree, the task has been completed, so that means she has tacitly accepted the current relationship. The confession was successful and the system was activated. At this moment, Shen Yan almost fainted with happiness. P.S. It has been recommended, and the main plot will also unfold. It will become more and more interesting in the future. Dads, Please click on the collection, vote for the data, and save the children. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Aunt King, your hands are so soft. Aunt King has been in Shen Yan's life since his parents passed away when he was 8 years old. He could hardly restrain his love for this elegant, gentle, and virtuous woman. For countless days and nights, he fantasized about holding Aunt King's hand like a couple. He thought that the wish that would never come true in this life actually came true at this moment. He couldn't even believe it. The huge sense of happiness came from all directions, making him a little dizzy. Moreover, it was not just a successful confession. The most important thing was that the main task was actually related to Aunt King's love. The pre-task that had troubled him for a long time was actually completed like this. I just don't know what my system function is. Don't be greedy, just sign into the system. Shen Yan was thinking, and a panel suddenly popped up in front of him. Name, Shen Yan. Age, 23. Realm, unclassified. Strength, 12. Kung Fu, none. Skills, primary footwork, 0/50. Intermediate sword skill, 0/100. Survival points, 0. Reminder, the end of the world is coming. Any action of the host will earn survival points, which can be used to add points and improve skill proficiency, and will be settled at 2400 hours every day. It's not a sign-in system, but it's good to be able to add points. After midnight, let's see how many points we can get today. Shen Yan was in a good mood and continued to look down. Storage column, unlocked. Equipment column, unlocked. Synthesis column, unlocked. Magic column, unlocked. Reminder, the host needs to complete more mainline tasks and has unlocked more attribute columns. Shen Yan was actually very satisfied with being able to add points to the Kung Fu column and the skill column. After all, as long as it is used properly, with only these two attribute columns, he has the confidence to survive in the end of the world. But who would dislike being stronger? Shen Yan continued to look down with anticipation. Damn, the description of the main task is still 404. But it doesn't matter. The previous task is to confess. So even if there is no prompt for the next task, Shen Yan can probably guess that it is nothing more than deepening the relationship with Aunt King. For example, kissing her lips, touching her legs, or sleeping in the same bed, or having sex. Otherwise, why would this task show a 404 status? And now that Aunt King has agreed to his confession, it must not be too difficult to complete these tasks, right? Well, the next plan is to kiss Aunt King. Shen Yan thought of this and glanced at Aunt King quietly. The movie was still playing, and she looked at the screen intently, and I don't know what she was thinking. Aunt King, Shen Yan called out softly with some nervousness. This time Xia Wanqing didn't remain silent again, and said softly. Got a response. Shen Yan was a little excited and wanted to ask if he could kiss you, but when the word came to his lips, they became, Aunt King, your hands are so soft. Oh, too nervous. He had to slow down. Aunt King didn't reply this time, but her pretty face couldn't help but blush. After all, she is Shen Yan's elder, and now she is with him, holding hands with him. Ugh, so embarrassing. Really, your hands are not only soft, but also very white. I'm going to die, and you still say it. Without waiting for Shen Yan to speak, Xia Wanqing took her hand back, while he was not paying attention. Stealing a chicken, but losing the rice. Shen Yan didn't expect that. Not only did he fail to kiss her, but now he couldn't hold her hand. After hesitating for a while, seeing that Aunt King's eyes were attracted by the movie again, he quietly reached out his hand again, wanting to hold her hand again. But unexpectedly, Aunt King was particularly alert this time and dodged directly. Stop making trouble. Watch the movie carefully. This movie has a high artistic content. Xia Wanqing actually really likes watching it. Shen Yan thought for a while. Aunt King, the movie is very sad later. I'd better hold your hand. I'm afraid you will cry. No, Aunt King is very strong. Well, then I won't be strong. You hold my hand and give me some strength. Do you think Aunt King will believe it? Xia Wanqing said so. But after hesitating for a moment, she still moved her hand towards Shenyan, hinting that the accident was obvious. Shenyan was so happy that he touched her again. Aunt King's hands were small, but her slender jade fingers were not short, and they felt fleshy. It was simply perfect. At this time, the movie just came to the end. Then Shenyan didn't feel how touching the movie was because his attention was on Aunt King. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar, but Aunt King couldn't help but have tears falling from the corners of her eyes. Aunt King is very strong. Thinking of these words, Shenyan really didn't want to laugh, but he couldn't help it. Puff ouch. Aunt King pinched his hand hard. What are you laughing at? This movie is so touching, and you're still laughing. No, I think it's touching too. This movie is really well made, haha. Are you looking for a fight? Although Xia Wanqing is gentle and virtuous, she is also socially anxious. But her personality is not dull. As she said that, she really slapped Shenyan's thigh. Pa. The crisp sound was very harsh, but she didn't use too much force. Shenyan was very excited at the moment, and he didn't feel any pain anyway. The movie just ended at this time. Xia Wanqing ignored him and stood up and said, Auntie is going back to sleep. Hand. Shenyan decisively pretended to be stupid. What hand? Are you looking for a fight? Without the ambiguous atmosphere just now, Xia Wanqing had basically returned to normal at this time. She couldn't help but give Shenyan a blank look, and the charm of a mature woman was clearly visible. If you don't let go, do you believe that Auntie will really beat you? Don't forget, Auntie has practiced it. Not only yoga, but also things like taekwondo and health boxing. Auntie King has also dabbled in them. But in Shenyan's opinion, those moves would only make him more excited. He simply made up his mind and stiffened his neck. No, Aunt, you haven't told me what our relationship is now. Aunt is 12 years older than you. Xia Wanqing's cheeks were a little hot when she thought of this. What's wrong with being 12 years older? Even if you are 120 years older, I still like you the same. Slippery tongue. Xia Wanqing couldn't help but press Shenyan's forehead. If I'm 102 years older than you, wouldn't I be an old witch? Shenyan decisively denied. I didn't say that. I meant that age is not a problem. How can age not be a problem? Aunt is so much older than you. If it gets out and outsiders know, how can people laugh at me? Shenyan suddenly felt a little funny. Aunt King, it's the end of the world now. Where are the outsiders? Xia Wanqing was stunned for a moment, as if this was the truth. But she still shook her head decisively. That won't work either. Auntie isn't even mentally prepared. Shenyan caught the loophole in this sentence. Then when you are mentally prepared in the future, will it be okay? Auntie didn't say that. Shenyan. Auntie King is really stubborn. She just offered her hand to him, but now she doesn't acknowledge their relationship. But he has completed the pre-tasks of the main storyline, so how could he not understand her feelings? Thinking of this, Shenyan couldn't help but feel excited. I didn't expect that he and Auntie King would actually start a relationship. Chapter 16 An increasingly dangerous world. Xia Wanqing couldn't convince Shenyan. For more than an hour, she didn't ask him to let go. The two were almost inseparable, whether they were organizing supplies in the living room, reading the news on the sofa, or even drinking water. Their hands were tightly clasped together. Shenyan enjoyed the ambiguous feeling of hands rubbing against each other, but what is happiness turning into sorrow? Not sure if it was too ambiguous, but Xia Wanqing couldn't handle it. When Shenyan bravely proposed a kiss, she decisively refused. Then he couldn't sleep in the bed in the bedroom. With the sound of the door closing with a bang, he was driven out. Oh. Shenyan was a little depressed. But falling in love is indeed something that can't be rushed. Besides, he actually enjoyed the current ambiguous atmosphere. If it progressed too fast, he would be a little uncomfortable. Let's take it step by step. I've touched Aunt King's hand today, which is already a huge breakthrough. I'll find another chance next time to see if I can go a step further, such as touching her calves or kissing her face. Shenyan pondered silently. He was no longer in a hurry. In short, living under the same roof and spending time together day and night, it was only a matter of time before his relationship with Aunt King deepened. He sat back on the sofa. Shen Yan set an alarm for midnight, ready to check his survival points at that time. But after putting down his phone, he tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep. On the one hand, the sofa was a little uncomfortable, and on the other hand, he was too excited after his successful confession. Finally, he simply took out his phone and logged into the Doomsday Forum. Compared to yesterday, the forum's activity has dropped a lot, but people's emotions have become more irritable. The top post is a piece of news. Hello all the living residents, no, survivors. This is the last official news broadcast. Please do not expect rescue anymore. This is a regular transmission. Order has completely collapsed. But please do not give up. You must believe in yourself. Live. You must live. As long as you live, there is hope. I believe that one day, you survivors, can rebuild the civilization of human civilization. The news is just 2 short sentences. But it is enough to make all the survivors despair. This is an official news, which also confirms the advent of the end of the world, and there will be no more rescue. Shen Yan also noticed the word irregular infection. That is to say, the zombie virus is not completely transmitted by biting. At the moment of the end of the world, even if someone stays in the house, it is possible to become a zombie. In this way, when searching for supplies in the future, even if the door is locked, he must be extra careful. Most people under the post are cursing. Of course, there are also a very small number of people who think this is the best era. In the end of the world, order collapses, which means absolute freedom. Some people even directly take revenge on their black-hearted bosses, posting photos of her with messy hair and kneeling on the ground wearing only stockings on the forum. But at this moment, no one cares anymore. After all, darker things are happening in every corner all the time. Some people even like him crazily and ask him to start live streaming. This photo is so exciting, and the boss is really good looking. Thank you for sharing, brother. Please let me address you as Mr. Kin. Sir, forget about live streaming. It's better to share happiness with others than to enjoy it alone. Shen Yan despises this behavior. He only watched it for half an hour, and then he stopped paying attention. The second post. The discussion is about how long the water and electricity can last. I'm a senior electrician, and I can tell you very clearly that, if the zombies do not take the initiative to destroy the power grid, even if the professional maintainers are lost now, the power grid can last at least half a year, and the water system can even last longer. Bullshit. Are you fooling a fool? Yes. Where's the electrician's certificate? Take it out and show it to me. Great. I downloaded hundreds of GB of learning materials. I was too busy before and didn't have time to pamper them. Now if the power is not cut off, it's just right to review it. Haha, who wants to watch it? I share it for free. Or la excellent. No, brother, what time is it now? Who still wants to watch movies? Yes, isn't it really better to just come directly? I won't be sleepy when you say this. To be honest, I'm trapped in the girls' dormitory now. I won't say anything more. The school beauty asked me to play poker again. Fuck, all of you get out of the way. I'm going to pee yellow. Although people are very irritable now. But the internet also gave Shen Yan a very friendly feeling. After all, the power grid can last for more than half a year, and sooner or later there will be a day when it will be cut off. This work is compiled and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bookbar. It will be difficult to experience this kind of joyful atmosphere in the future. The third most popular post has only a few words, but it instantly aroused Shen Yan's vigilance. Shock. A giant zombie appeared on the road. After clicking on the post, there was no text description, only a short video of less than 1 minute. Pressing the play button, the video screen was very shaky, and it was obvious that the person who filmed it was an extreme phobia. But even so, the figure of the giant zombie was very eye-catching. Its height was probably more than 5 meters, twice as tall as the zombies around it. Walking slowly on the road, it looked very attractive. And around it, there were also a large number of zombies swarming, extending from the road, densely packed and unable to see the end. Fuck. So big. This is going to scare people to death. Can zombies still evolve? It's over. I'm dead. If zombies don't evolve, I don't know how to survive, let alone now. What are you talking about? This road is less than 2 miles away from my home. 1 minute of collective silence. Shen Yan also hurriedly identified it. The good news is that this road is at least not in their Binhei territory. But the bad news is that zombies have the ability to evolve. Even if Binhei doesn't have it now, there will definitely be in the future. This world is getting more and more dangerous. Shen Yan felt a strong sense of crisis. His desire to become stronger quickly became stronger. At this moment, the clock just passed the early morning. Ding. Daily survival points have been settled. You killed a zombie today, and you are a little braver. Survival points +7. You closed the unit door today, and your sense of security increased. Survival points +6. You searched a house today, and you were in a good mood. Survival points +9. You ate Xia Wanqing's 3 meals a day today, and you felt so. Survival points +5. You successfully confessed to Xia Wanqing today, and you were particularly excited. Survival points +100. Final settlement, points +127. Shen Yan's eyes lit up, and he could add points. Chapter 17 Strength Improvement. Add points. After he silently said this in his mind, a small plus sign appeared behind the 2 skills on the panel. I often dissect corpses, so my knife skills are definitely far better than ordinary people, but I have only reached the intermediate level. Then after upgrading one more level, is it possible for me to reach the level of top surgeons? Shen Yan was somewhat looking forward to it. However, he did not have many survival points now, so he had to choose carefully. It should not take such a fine knife skill to chop zombies, and the intermediate knife skill is definitely enough for the time being. And the importance of footwork is self-evident. After all, there is an old saying that I may not be able to outrun a tiger, but I can outrun you. Thinking of this, Shen Yan almost did not hesitate and directly clicked 50 times on basic footwork. As the information in the skill bar changed to intermediate footwork, 0/100ths, a sense of sensitivity to footsteps arose in his mind. It was as if he was really like a parkour player, running and jumping, practicing with full concentration for 3 to 5 years. During this period, he worked day and night without distraction, and finally made this small progress. What a magical feeling. What surprised Shen Yan even more was that he saw that there were many more fine and well-proportioned muscles on his legs, and he could also feel a sense of ease on his body. So, after the skill proficiency increases, his physical fitness will also become stronger? Shen Yan glanced at the strength column with surprise. Sure enough, his comprehensive strength has changed from 1, 2 to 2, 3. The change seems small, but don't forget that his original strength is at least at the level of ordinary people, so it can be inferred that the strength of ordinary people will hover around 1 to 2. Of course, the world is undergoing great changes. Zombies can evolve and become stronger, and no one can say whether humans will become stronger in the future. Will their combat power still be 1 to 2 at that time? I'm afraid it can only be determined after a real fight. Hey, it would be great if I could see other people's comprehensive strength intuitively. That way, whether it's running or fighting, I can make the best choice. Shen Yan felt a little regretful, but at this moment, a line of text suddenly appeared in front of him. Detecting the host's strong intention. Do you want to turn on the detection function of the strength evaluation column? The detection function that comes with the strength evaluation column? Shen Yan was quite surprised. No way, it can really detect other people's strength? Turn it on. After silently reciting this sentence, Shen Yan's side suddenly appeared densely packed with numbers. The closest one was Aunt King in the next bedroom. It should be above her head, with the number of 0 to 1 floating. Sure enough, although Aunt King had practiced, it was nothing more than a gangster's excitement punch. The remaining densely packed numbers were mostly zombies in the square downstairs. Their general strength was 1 to 2, no different from ordinary people. However, what surprised Shen Yan was that on the 7th floor, the number on the person actually reached 223, which was obviously much higher than that of ordinary people. But his current strength is not worse than that of his opponent. As long as he is a little cautious, he is not afraid. Finally, Shen Yan felt the range of the detection again. He can see the number above the opponent's head within a diameter of about 100 meters. Moreover, because the numbers are presented regardless of obstacles, it is almost the same as perspective, so he can easily judge the opponent's position. Not bad, not bad. Shen Yan nodded secretly. With such a large range, he can also judge the position, which is enough for him to predict danger in advance. And he doesn't have to worry about some shady guys hiding their strength to attack him. The only thing that makes Shen Yan speechless is that this system is still so unreliable. If he hadn't happened to think of this, the detection function of the strength evaluation column would not even tell him. Pitfall. There are still 77 points left. Shen Yan thought about it and added it to the footwork again. Intermediate footwork, 77 hundredths. Although he failed to upgrade his level this time, his proficiency in footwork has undoubtedly improved significantly. His physical fitness has also been strengthened to a certain extent. It feels that, as long as there is an obstacle less than 1 meter, he will jump over it, as if walking on flat ground. And his comprehensive strength has indeed increased again, from 2, 3 to 3, 4. I feel that I have at least reached the level of an ordinary Parker player now. Shen Yan was in a good mood, and his current footwork is still only at the intermediate stage. What will be after the intermediate level? Advanced. What about after the advanced level? Shen Yan couldn't guess it for the time being, but no matter what it is, his steps in the future will definitely be far beyond ordinary people, and he will move towards non-humanity. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bookbar. It was already very late at night. The city outside the window was silent, like a dead forest made of steel and concrete. But Shen Yan was still excited that his strength suddenly became so strong that he couldn't sleep, so he was thinking about the next plan in his mind. From the law of obtaining survival points, the more exciting the things you do, the more points you will get, and vice versa. For example, when he confessed to Wanqing, he actually got 100 points at one time. And closing the unit door, searching the house, and eating 3 meals a day generally hovered below 10 points. So if he doesn't go out and just stays at home, the points he gets in a day may be only a few dozen points. So in order to get more points and get stronger faster, he has to try to do more exciting things every day. I can now evaluate my combat power, and my footwork has also been strengthened. Should I choose to go out tomorrow? Shen Yan thought silently. But if he goes out, what should he do? Kill zombies? No, it's meaningless. Even if you kill a zombie, you can get 10 points. There is no need for him to rush to take risks now. It's not too late to go after his strength is improved. Where to search for supplies? Supplies are still very important, but how to open the door? Oh, professional lockpicking tools are very important. Then go to the lock shop at the entrance of the community tomorrow to see if you can find professional lockpicking tools. Thinking of this, Shen Yan finally felt sleepy, yawned, and fell asleep on the sofa. In the dream, he dreamed of becoming a Superman, flying into the sky, moving mountains and filling the sea, and almost omnipotent. But Wanqing's beautiful face, which was so close to him, he couldn't kiss it no matter what. That feeling of regret, don't even mention it. The next morning, Xia Wanqing. Wake up, Xia Wanqing. Auntie has prepared the meal. If you don't get up, Auntie will eat it all. Xia Wanqing gently shook Shen Yan's arm and asked him to get up. But he didn't go to bed until almost 2 o'clock last night, and now Shen Yan is sleeping like a dead pig. So seeing him sleeping so soundly, Xia Wanqing hesitated for a moment, blushed slightly, and secretly kissed him on the face. Anyway, you don't know, so I will quietly fulfill your little wish. Chapter 18. Wanqing, something is getting wrong. Shen Yan woke up slowly, after sleeping till dawn. Then, as if he remembered something, he lay on the sofa with a silly smile on his face. It was strange that he thought he couldn't kiss Wanqing in his dream last night, but he succeeded in the end. Wanqing's soft lips were imprinted on his face, and he almost cried with happiness. No, after searching for supplies today, he must try to see if he can break through this step. What are you grinning at? Xia Wanqing just came over with a duster to sweep the curtains. Nothing. Shen Yan didn't dare to tell the truth, but he couldn't help touching his face. If I remember correctly, this is what Wanqing kissed in the dream. Seeing his action, Xia Wanqing's face turned slightly red. At the same time, she felt a little guilty. Would Xia Wanqing find out? Get up and eat quickly, otherwise it will be cold in a while. Oh, okay. Shen Yan wanted to pull Wanqing's hand again, but he happened to be hungry now, so he got up and walked to the dining table. Breakfast was still very ordinary white rice porridge with eggs and a small dish of pickles, but it was definitely enough to fill the stomach. And it is worth mentioning that the previous additions did not cause consumption, such as qi and blood deficiency. So Shen Yan's hunger was only because he was young and had a fast metabolism. Is it enough? If not, auntie will fry you another egg. After sweeping the curtains, Xia Wanqing turned around and walked back. She was still dressed very conservatively today, with a beige long-sleeved home dress on the upper body and the same style of trousers on the lower body. The white and delicate skin and good figure were covered up, but at this moment she was not wearing socks, and her little feet in the pink sandals were white and tender. Well, it's enough. Shen Yan reluctantly withdrew his gaze and began to eat with his head down. Are you going out again today? Xia Wanqing asked again. Well, we still don't have enough supplies. We have to try to collect more. Shen Yan was afraid that Aunt King would worry, so he didn't mention that he would go out of the community. He changed the subject and said, by the way, Aunt King, when you are free later, download some movies. This way, even if the internet is disconnected in the future, we can still have some entertainment activities. The power may be cut off, but at least there are diesel generators and so on. It's just that professional equipment such as diesel generators should not be available in ordinary places, so we can only find them later. Okay then. Xia Wanqing hesitated to speak, but finally nodded. Although Shen Yan didn't say that he was going to leave the community, she was still worried whenever he went out. But she also knew in her heart that if they didn't go to search for supplies and didn't take this risk, they would just be struggling to survive. After finishing breakfast in no time, Shen Yan didn't waste any more time. He put on a thick autumn sportswear, put all 8 knives on his back, and walked out of the house. On the other side, after Xia Wanqing cleaned up the dishes, she sat in front of the computer and downloaded a movie. No matter what style, love, horror, science fiction, as long as it has a high rating, she is ready to download it. The memory is definitely not enough, so she remembered the mobile hard disk she saw when she helped Shen Yan pack up yesterday. Find it and insert it into the computer, and open the folder. The next second, Xia Wanqing's eyes almost popped out. What Asia, Europe and the United States, Domestic, Store Exploration Series. Oh my god, this, is it the legendary Xia Wanqing subconsciously covered her mouth. At the same time, she blushed and covered the mouse, subconsciously wanting to turn it off. But when the mouse moved to the position of X, she suddenly hesitated again. This kind of film, she has never seen it at all. She is really too curious. It has been said that, although Aunt King is gentle and virtuous, her personality is not dull, and she is even a little bit sultry and restless. Tangled to the end. Xia Wanqing still couldn't resist the curiosity in her heart, dragged the mouse, and blushed and randomly clicked on a video. As a familiar music sounded, the blood-pumping picture began to play. Xia Wanqing felt that her cheeks were burning. But at this moment, she suddenly seemed to have seen a vast new world. Gradually, her breathing began to quicken, and the expression on her face became more and more blurred, and occasionally a trace of madness flashed by. Aunt King, something is getting more and more wrong. In the end, she could hardly control herself. Subconsciously, her right hand pressed on her chest, and her left hand began to move down. Soon, a low and gentle hum came out of her mouth. Once is new, twice is familiar. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Book Bar. When he walked out of the house again, Shen Yan adapted a lot. However, he was not in a hurry to go out, but walked up the stairs to the 7th floor first, and then followed the fire escape to the rooftop. He planned to use the high vision to observe the situation and wait for an opportunity to act. In the square below the community, there were zombies wandering around, very slowly and staggeringly. However, Shen Yan had no way to confirm their exact number with the naked eye. Turn on the detection function. As the voice fell, dense numbers appeared in front of him again. After a night, the number of zombies in the community has increased instead of decreased. There were only dozens of them floating last night, but today it has exceeded 100. Damn, how could this happen? Did someone attract the attention of zombies again last night? Shen Yan wanted to curse. His building is at least 100 meters away from the locksmith shop at the entrance of the community. and he has to cross the square in the middle. It is almost impossible not to attract the attention of zombies. And there are hundreds of zombies. Even if his basic footwork has reached the intermediate level, he has no confidence that he can escape unscathed. What should I do? It's too risky to break in by force. I can't get the locksmith tools and the door can't be opened. Shen Yan felt a headache. He was really in a dilemma now. But at this moment, a mud truck suddenly drove over quickly on the road outside the community. The roaring sound of the engine instantly attracted the attention of the zombies. They were still staggering in the community a second ago, but now they ran faster than dogs and ran out of the community gate roaring. Of course, it was not just this community. The zombies in other communities were also instantly alarmed. Some zombies even broke the windows from the floors and jumped down one after another. Some even broke their legs, but they still screamed and crawled towards the bus. Soon, zombies came from all directions, surrounded and chased the dump truck. However, the power of this dump truck was very strong, constantly hitting the zombies, and there were constant crushing sounds. The tall tires rolled over the zombies, and black and red blood spurted out, leaving long marks on the ground. This dump truck is too powerful. Shen Yan was a little surprised. But now the zombies are attracted to this car again, which is a great opportunity. He didn't hesitate anymore, and immediately came down from the rooftop, crossed the community square, and went straight to the locksmith shop. Chapter 19 Residents in the community. Since the dump truck attracted the attention of most zombies, Shen Yan crossed the square without any obstruction. He was very fast, and it took him only about 11 or 12 seconds to cover a distance of about 100 meters. Don't think this is slow. Except for professional sprinters, most people can't achieve this result. Moreover, after the footwork reaches the intermediate level, the ability to dodge and climb over obstacles is mainly improved. Bang! Just after running out of the gate of the community, a violent noise came from the distance. Shen Yan looked over and saw that the dump truck that was so majestic just now seemed to have hit the car in the middle of the road, and its speed dropped a lot in an instant. Although it was powerful and seemed to be able to move forward, the surging tide of zombies crowded layer by layer and soon formed a wall of flesh. No matter how the engine of the dump truck roared, the speed was only getting slower and slower. When the speed dropped to a certain level, zombies began to climb up with ferocious faces, one after another, and the piles got higher and higher. At a distance of more than 100 meters, Shen Yan could barely see that there seemed to be men and women in the car, about 20 people, who were screaming and picking up various weapons to resist. It's useless. This car can't hold on for too long. Time was running out. Shen Yan didn't dare to delay any longer, and turned and ran to the locksmith shop. Fortunately, the door of the locksmith shop was open, and it seemed that no one had visited it. Not only were there no zombies inside, but there were also many items on display. Horizontal key cutting machine, programmer, key stick, various unlocking tools. But the question is, which unlocking tool should be chosen? Shen Yan had only seen one of them. For the rest, let alone unlocking, he didn't even know the principle of use. And the only one he had seen was a mechanical arm structure. When unlocking, you need to first unscrew the cat's eye of the resident's house, then insert the mechanical arm through the cat's eye and open the door handle from inside the house. It's too heavy. He needs to collect supplies when he goes out, which is difficult to carry. But if he doesn't choose this, he won't be able to use the rest. Shen Yan was a little anxious. When the dump truck falls, he will have to leave. But at this moment, he suddenly saw a red booklet with instructions for using the lock-picking tools. With the instructions, it should be fine. There are 4 or 5 kinds of lock-picking tools left, but they are not big. Most of them are only the size of a palm. Shen Yan didn't have time to check the instructions. He put them all into his backpack and left the lock shop. Outside, the dump truck has completely stopped. Don't shout, bitch. Don't you think there are not enough zombies? I don't want to die. Help, help. Don't come over. Get out of here. Get out of here. The faint shouting came over, and the tide of zombies had completely engulfed the dump truck. Shen Yan didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly returned to the community. He had the lock-picking tools, but he didn't rush to search for supplies. Instead, he took advantage of this rare opportunity to close it to heavy doors at the front and back of the community. In this way, he only needed to clean up the remaining, scattered zombies in the community, and it should be safe for the time being. He scanned the community again with the detection function. There were probably less than 20 floating numbers left. However, because the numbers were too close, Shen couldn't tell whether they were survivors or zombies. The community was very quiet, with only the rustling sound of the wind blowing through the leaves. Not seeing zombies for the time being, Shen relaxed a lot, no longer anxious, and walked towards his building quietly and alertly. And in the next building, a pair of eyes looked through the curtains and saw Shen walking slowly and looked very shocked. Lei, I saw someone walking in the community. The woman looked in her 20s, young and beautiful, but because of the zombie outbreak, her eyes were full of fear and her face was pale. The man named Lei was squatting on the ground at this moment, staring at the wall blankly. He and Wang Lu were not in a relationship, he was just Wang Lu's pursuer. He originally thought there was no chance, but he didn't expect to be trapped in a rental house together after the end of the world. Lei, do you think there are no zombies in the community? Wang Lu said expectantly. No zombies? Lei heard Wang Lu say this, and hurriedly got up, leaned on the windowsill, and looked outside through the curtains. The community was indeed very quiet, with only a young man walking quietly. Did the car just now attract all the zombies? It's possible. Then, Lei, you should go out quickly too, and collect more supplies. Wang Lu is a fairy girl. She never cleans the house or cooks. Every day when she is hungry, she orders to eat, and the food in their house can't last a day. This work is organized and operated by Liu Jiu Bokba. Lei was a little confused. Although he also understands the importance of supplies. But he is really afraid of zombies. He can't help shaking his legs when he sees them, and he instinctively resists them. Brotherly Lei, do you want us to starve to death? Wang Lu pouted her little mouth, looking a little unhappy. Lei, who had been hooked for a long time, panicked when he saw the goddess's appearance, and hurriedly comforted her. Don't worry, Xiaolu, I'm just a little uncomfortable. Can you wait until I confirm that there are really no zombies in the community before going out? Wang Lu was even more speechless. Others are not afraid to walk outside, but you dare not go out? She looked at Lei with some disdain, and held back the unhappiness in her heart, and said, Brotherly Lei, the zombies are now attracted by the sound of cars. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How long do you have to wait? But, Lei was still a little hesitant. If these zombies were the slow-moving zombies in movies and TV dramas, he wouldn't be so panicked. But these zombies are completely different. The speed of movement is no different from that of ordinary people, and there is no pain. What else? Wang Lu wanted to curse. Look at the little brother, and then look at you. Seeing her expression, Lei became even more panicked. Don't worry, Xiaolu, I'm just afraid. What if I go out? Who will protect your safety? What if someone plots against you? Don't worry about my safety. Wang Lu's face was a little ugly. She was almost starving to death, and she was still afraid that someone would plot against her. And even if someone did that to her, she didn't really care. After all, before the end of the world, she also took advantage of her good health, and often made extra money, and she didn't object to these things. Maybe if she served well, people would reward her with some instant noodles or ham sausages. However, she was pure and innocent in front of Lei, so he naturally couldn't see it. Wang Lu quickly put on a smile again, and at the same time, prepared to give Lei some sweetness. Brotherly Lei, if you can find enough food, you will be my great benefactor, and I'm not impossible to consider being your girlfriend. Now is the end of the world, let alone a girlfriend. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would have been pressed to the ground and ravaged by Wang Lu, the green tea bitch. But Lei is a weirdo. After a day and a night together, he didn't even touch her hand. He also despised those men on the internet who would take advantage of women at will. After all, he has higher aspirations. He wants to get the heart of the goddess. Anyway, when Fiangyang comes, he has to give him a cigarette. Don't worry, Xiaolu, I won't let you down. The words girlfriend made Lei's heart excited instantly. Although his legs were still a little weak, he didn't hesitate anymore. He found a knife from the kitchen and walked out of the house. Looking at Li Lei's fighting spirit, a sneer flashed across Wang Lu's face. He couldn't help but despise him. You, a fool, want me to be your girlfriend? Ha, it's impossible in the next life. On the other side, Shen Yan had just walked to the door of his building when a number 324 suddenly appeared inside the unit door. The man on the 7th floor? But wasn't his combat power only 223 that day? How come it has increased by 1 point now? Chapter 20, Unexpected Gains. The unit door of building number 3. When Shen Yan came out, he only opened a small gap. Squeak at this moment, as the door opened, Shen Yan saw the resident on the 7th floor. The other party was very tall and strong, with no hair on his head and dense tattoos on both arms. And in his right hand, he was holding the consumption axe at the moment. It is probably because of this axe that his overall strength has improved a little. Shen Yan thought silently. Li Hu was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect to meet a living person just after opening the door. He looked at Shen Yan warily, and then his eyes lit up, as if he thought of something, and smiled. Okay, you came out earlier than me. You are not small, just right. Let's team up to search for supplies together. When he said this, the smile on his face was playful, his eyes flashed, giving people a strong and aggressive feeling. But Shen Yan was not afraid. Although the opponent's overall strength is now comparable to his own. But if a conflict really breaks out, with the blessing of footwork, he can also easily wander around and let him kite. Not interested. Shen Yan shook his head and prepared to leave. However, Li Hu stepped aside and blocked his way. At the same time, he patted Shen Yan's shoulder in a familiar manner and then said, "You are the resident of the 3rd floor, right? I have seen you. What's the matter? You have come out, and you are going back empty-handed." The two of them only met a few times. The relationship is not that close at all, and his attitude is so casual, it is natural that he wants to control people. Now that they are too close, Shen Yan can't have a conflict with him. He frowned and smiled. "No, I'm going home first." "Go home?" Li Hu frowned, and his voice became louder. "What's the matter? You can't find food and eat it all. Now the zombies have been led away by that car. Why don't you go to the supermarket at the door with me quickly? When you get the food inside, we brothers will share it equally." Shen Yan also passed by the small supermarket at the door just now. But at that time, the dump trucks were all overwhelmed by zombies, and he didn't dare to stay. And he knew Li Hu's little thought. Divide the supplies equally? Ha. He was just making a lot of noise, but in the end, wasn't he a little panicked and wanted to drag someone down with him? If he didn't get the supplies, it would be fine, but if he did, he would kill him to silence him. Li Hu was originally a scoundrel, good at eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. He was a thief before the end of the world, and he would be even more evil after the end of the world. I appreciate Brother Li's kindness, but I really don't want the things in the supermarket. Now he couldn't pull away, and he didn't have any weapons for long-range attacks, so he should try not to have a conflict. "What's the matter? You don't want to give me face, right?" Li Hu's face turned cold. "I really don't want to go. Don't accept my toast, then drink the forfeit." Huh. Li Hu continued to stare at Shen Yan, his eyes showing a fierce light. But his other hand holding the fire axe was loose, and it was obvious that he didn't take Shen Yan seriously at all. After all, in Li Hu's heart, Shen Yan was just a little kid. Even if he had a kitchen knife, would he really dare to cut him? But what he didn't know was, Shen Yan had quietly pressed the handle of the knife at this time, thinking whether he could take the initiative. But at this moment, with a squeak, the door of the unit next door suddenly opened. Then, a thin figure wearing glasses, holding a kitchen knife tightly with both hands, walked out timidly. Li Hu's eyes lit up again. "I'll let you go this time. Don't refuse next time, understand?" After leaving this harsh word, he walked up to the man in a carefree manner. "It's just right. You, come with me to the supermarket at the entrance of the community. Follow me in the future. I guarantee you will have delicious food and spicy drinks." Li Lei's eyes lit up. His luck is too good. Just out of the unit door, he met a good brother. Although the other party looks fierce and doesn't seem to be easy to get along with, as long as he follows him and behaves more humble, he will definitely be able to get a lot of supplies, right? In this way, he can take care of himself and Xia Lu. Shen Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, the distance was so close, and he actually didn't have the confidence to kill the other party with one blow. Turning around, he prepared to enter the building. But at this moment, Li Hu stimulated him again. What does the beautiful slut next door have to do with you? Is she still alive? Shen Yan's anger was ignited. It's okay that she was so aggressive just now. Fuck you. This work is compiled and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bokbar. Aunt King is such a gentle woman. You dare to call her a slut? Why don't you say anything? What's the matter? Is she really dead? Li Hu was still talking nonsense. Oh, what a pity. If she were alive, we could just catch her and lock her up and have fun day and night. TSK, that ass is so round and the skin is so tender. It makes me excited to sleep just thinking about it. At this point, he patted Li Lei's shoulder again. By the way, there is also you. The three of us brothers will train her together. Haha. Anyway, it's the end of the world. Li Hu doesn't want to pretend at all and says whatever he thinks in his heart. Although Li Lei was not interested in women other than Wang Lu, he also showed a smile that all men understand and followed with two lewd laughs. You dare to fantasize about Aunt King? Shen Yan is really angry now. After his parents passed away, if it weren't for Aunt King's careful care and guidance, he would not have been able to hold on until now, and he would probably have committed suicide long ago. So he not only likes Aunt King, but also respects her elders. In any case, Li Hu must be killed today. By the way, there is also this man with glasses, laughing at you. Revenge. Shen Yan is not going to wait overnight, but he is a very calm character. Even if he is angry at this moment, he will not rush over to fight them head on. His footwork is his advantage. He has to keep a distance and find a suitable long-range weapon before he can make a move. And when he makes a move, he will strive to kill them with one blow and will not give them any chance to turn over. Shen Yan's eyes calmed down. Every time he dissected a corpse, his eyes were like this. He compared a few more words. Li Hu pulled Li Lei and walked across the square to the supermarket at the entrance of the community. Shen Yan did not follow. He was thinking about what long-range weapon to use to deal with them. It would be great if he had a gun. With one shot, all problems would be solved. Crossbows and bows would also work, but these things are contraband, and they cannot be considered for the time being. After thinking about it, the only long-range weapons that can be used for the time being are probably stones. However, the accuracy of throwing stones must be very poor. He has to practice by himself first, at least to ensure that 5 out of 10 shots can hit the target, so he has the confidence to shoot. Shen Yan is now holding back a lot of anger. Without wasting any time, he found some stones in the flower bed, then drew a circle on the ground and started practicing. After throwing the stones in the circle about 50 times, with a ding sound, a line of text suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. New skill acquired, elementary archery, 0/50. Acquired a new skill? Shen Yan's eyes lit up. He didn't expect such an unexpected gain. Chapter 21 Good Brother. At the moment of acquiring new skills, Shen Yan's mind was filled with a sense of sensitivity to shooting. It was as if he had really practiced with full concentration for several months with a stone in his hand. And after careful observation, Shen Yan found that the muscle lines on his arm had clearer contours. He felt a little stronger, and the soreness in his arm from throwing stones just now was gone. I didn't expect that I could get a certain degree of enhancement just by acquiring a new skill. Shen Yan was in a good mood. Then he did a simple test. Just now, within a range of 10 meters, he hit a target with a diameter of 10 centimeters, and his hit rate was only about 30%. But now, he can easily reach 90%, and he is only one step away from hitting 100%. The NBA 3-point line is only 7.25 meters away from the basket. For fixed point shooting, he is now comparable to Stephen Curry, but his overall strength has not increased again, and it is still 3-4. However, after all, shooting skills are only elementary, so Shen Yan did not feel disappointed. Then he found enough stones in the flower bed, and even bricks were put into the backpack, and quietly lurked. Basic archery plus intermediate footwork. He didn't believe he couldn't kill Li Hu and the others this time. On the other side, Li Hu and Li Lei had already entered the supermarket at the entrance of the community. This supermarket was actually converted from the first floor of a residential building. Although there was no back door leading to the community, there was a bay window where things were usually sold. Fearing the attention of zombies, Li Hu and Li Lei did not open the gate of the community, but pried open the anti-theft net on the bay window and climbed into the supermarket. In the supermarket, the shelves on both sides had been pushed to the ground. Snacks were scattered all over the ground, some with footprints, and many were crushed. At the moment of the apocalypse, you don't need to think about how chaotic it was here. The refrigerator where meat was stored was also smashed. Now the weather is very hot. After 2 days, you can smell a faint stench standing next to it. What a waste. The importance of meat is self-evident, and Li Hu felt very distressed. However, many snacks are still fine, and there are still a lot of cigarettes and alcohol. As long as the main door of the supermarket is sealed, and then all the things are slowly transported back, it will be enough for him to be free for a long time. Li Lei was also very excited. Although this supermarket was not big and did not have food like rice and noodles, there were also a lot of instant noodles, sausages, canned food. Even if they only got half of it, he and Wang Lu could survive for a long time. Moreover, he found so much food on his first trip out. Seeing how well he performed, Wang Lu might really treat him as his girlfriend. However, what Li Lei did not know was that Li Hu was not prepared to share at all. He just treated him as cannon fodder and labor. What are you thinking about? Go and lock the door. Li Hu ordered unceremoniously. Oh, okay. There were no zombies in the supermarket, so Li Lei became a little bolder. But before he could even get to the door, roar, a very fat zombie roared and staggered in. It seemed to have an injury on its leg, making it a little inconvenient to move. But when he saw the zombie's hideous face and the meat hanging from the corner of his mouth, Li Lei was still instantly frightened and stood there motionless. Puff. Just as the zombie was about to pounce on Li Lei, a fire axe fell from the sky and split its head. Black dirty blood sprayed Li Lei's face. Fuck, what a waste. Li Hu couldn't help cursing. But now was not the time to care about it. In his sight, there were already many zombies wandering outside the window. Not daring to delay any longer, Li Hu stepped forward and inserted the bolt of the supermarket's main door. This door also had anti-theft beams. Although some zombies heard the sound and rushed over, slapping, scratching, and biting hard, Li Hu was no longer too worried. Waste, what are you still standing there for? Pack your things. There happened to be a lot of plastic bags hanging next to the cash register. Li Hu pulled them over and threw a stack to Li Lei. You go pack snacks, I'll pack cigarettes and alcohol. Cigarettes and alcohol are necessities for Li Hu. And as a lazy guy, he also likes to read online articles, knowing that these things will be hard currency in the future. Oh, okay. Li Lei came back to his senses and didn't dare to delay anymore. After wiping the blood off his face, he began to pack things with trembling hands. Chocolate, beef cubes, instant noodles, anything that could resist hunger, he packed them all in. This time it went smoothly, and the two of them quickly packed several large bags. When they could no longer carry it, Li Hu waved his hand and said, "Let's go first, come back next time." Yeah, okay. Li Lei had wanted to leave for a long time, and nodded immediately after hearing that. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bokbar at the same time. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Although the process was a bit dangerous, the result was not bad. He found so much food. Now that he just needs to go back, his goddess will definitely look at him differently. But before Li Lei could get excited, at this moment, the anti-theft door, that looked very solid, actually fell down along with the entire frame. The next second, 4 or 5 zombies instantly fell to the ground of the supermarket, then struggled to get up and rushed towards the two. Li Hu was stunned, but he reacted very quickly, picked up the axe, and immediately shouted, "Quick, throw all the bags out of the bay window, I'll hold them off first." Ah. Brother who actually took the initiative to resist the zombies, isn't he too loyal? What are you still standing there for? Hurry up. Oh, good. Li Lei was so moved that he almost cried. It's the end of the world, and it's really rare to meet such a good brother. Not daring to delay any time, he almost used up all his strength and immediately threw all the bags out of the window. Hurry up, brotherly, throw everything out. Li Lei turned around and shouted. in his sight. Brother Who just knocked down a zombie with an axe and then ran over. Well, thank you. What are you thanking me for? Come here quickly, I'll pull you. Lei said as he climbed up the window. No, it's too late. There are too many zombies, and only one of us can climb out. What do you mean it's too late? Brother Who, don't give up. Lei was very anxious. It was so hard to meet such a good brother. How could he watch him die? However, before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a pain in his hair, as if he was grabbed by a pair of big hands. Then, he was pulled down from the window, and then he felt a pain in his abdomen, and he was kicked to the ground by a big foot. Idiot. Who turned back and spat. Without stopping, he climbed up the bay window. This free coolie was stupid, but actually quite useful, and he didn't want to sell him out. But there was no way. The zombies were close at hand, and the bay window was too narrow. Only one person could pass through. Brother Who. Lei covered his stomach and curled up on the ground like a shrimp, with a look of despair on his face. He never expected this result. But it was too late to say anything now. The zombies that rushed over had already knocked him to the ground. I really don't want to die. If I die, what will happen to Wang Lu? She is so pure and kind. How can she survive in this doomsday? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. I'll give you 2 zombies to play with. After climbing out of the bay window, a large amount of flames suddenly burst out of the supermarket behind him. The flames almost jumped out of the bay window and touched Who's butt. Who was startled, but he didn't think too much about it. He thought it was a gas leak or something. Damn, I'm so unlucky. There are still many things I haven't taken. Who cursed and spat. But although he said this, he was still very satisfied when looking at the supplies on the ground. Not only did he have so much food, but there were also so many good products and famous wines. Before the end of the world, the things that were worth at least tens of thousands of dollars now don't cost a penny. It's so fucking cool. Who suddenly felt that the end of the world was simply a paradise tailor-made for him. In the past, if he hit someone, he might be put in jail. Now, no matter what he does, he doesn't have to bear any consequences and can do whatever he wants. We have food. Next, let's see how many people are still alive in the community. Women, if they are pretty, treat them like bitches. If they are not pretty, work hard for me. Men, if you listen to me, go out to find supplies. If you don't listen, throw them out to feed the zombies. And that little brat just now, he was so disobedient. I'll kill you later. The first time he went out to search for supplies, he had a great harvest. At this moment, Who was very inflated, and he couldn't help but imagine what he would look like as the king of the end of the world in the future. Not only this community, but the entire Banhai city will be under his feet in the future. At that time, let alone ordinary beauties, rich girls, big stars, no matter what your identity is, as long as he wants, he can play with them at will. After a fantasy, Who felt extremely satisfied. Then he whistled, put all the plastic bags on his back, and walked towards the square. But just as he walked to the center of the square, he heard a sound of breaking through the air. Whoosh! He subconsciously raised his head and saw a brick getting bigger and bigger in front of him. Bang! Then, Who was hit hard on the forehead before he even had time to react. Ouch! Who screamed, and then his eyes went dark, and he fainted. His nearly 1.9 meter tall body fell heavily to the ground, splashing a lot of smoke and dust. Oh my god, you can't stand it? Shen was a little surprised. He actually waited for Who to walk to the center of the square before attacking. In this way, even if the first attack didn't work, Who couldn't find a cover in the open area and couldn't escape, but he didn't expect it to be completely unnecessary. I didn't expect the power of turning my head to be so great. Shen was a little surprised. But this brick is okay for people, but it's probably useless for zombies who don't feel pain. In the future, he still has to try to find real long-range weapons. You won't die like this, will you? Shen pulled out a kitchen knife and walked over cautiously. He actually dared to fantasize about Wanqing. If he killed her like this, it would be too easy for him, and it would really be unsatisfactory. But at this moment, before Shenyan could reach Li Hu suddenly sat up from the ground. His body was indeed very strong, and he woke up after a moment of confusion. But his head still hurt and felt dizzy, as if a knife was cutting it. Your vitality is still strong. Shenyan stopped, then put away the kitchen knife, and took out another brick from his backpack. Hiss, it's you. Li Hu's head was dizzy, and when he heard the voice, he barely saw Shenyan's figure through his blurred and red vision. Then, he suddenly seemed to think of something, and suddenly reached out, and touched his forehead. There was a hole there, as if it had been opened, and it was all sticky with blood. Okay. UF*CK. UF*CK dared to sneak attack me. UF*CK are really looking for death. Li Hu was instantly angry, and he didn't care whether his head was still dizzy or not. He immediately supported himself with a fire axe, and stood up shakily. At this moment, his lips were trembling with anger, and his face was trembling. In addition, his face was covered with blood, and he looked like a hideous ghost. But he couldn't even stand steadily now. Shenyan still had the footwork to distance himself, so he was not panicked at all, and even felt a little sorry. If he was hit by another brick, he would definitely kill Li Hu, but it was still very unsatisfying. But at this moment, from the corner of his eye, Shenyan suddenly saw two zombies wandering around the corner of the building next to him, with the numbers 122 floating above their heads. These numbers were there before, and I thought they were survivors. Shenyan's eyes lit up. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiubokba. Then he also blew his saliva like brotherhood just now. When the zombie's attention was attracted by himself, he turned around and left without thinking. You're welcome, I'll give you two zombies to play with. Fuck, what the hell do you mean? Li Hu didn't see the zombies, and his head was dizzy. He thought Shenyan was afraid of him, and shouted fiercely, why the hell are you leaving? If you have the guts, stay here, I'll kill you. He said this, but he was actually quite weak in his heart. He knew his own situation well. He was just strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. If he really fought hard, even if he could kill the other party, he would probably be seriously injured. But he didn't expect that this idiot would let him go, and didn't take his life while he was sick. Then he would kill him after he recovered from his injuries. No, you dare to sneak attack me. It's too easy to kill you. I will make you live a life worse than death in the future. However, at this moment, Li Hu suddenly heard the familiar roar of the zombies. He turned his head in surprise, and was instantly frightened. He saw two zombies staggering towards him. At this time, Shenyan threw another brick over, and the sound of the brick falling on the ground was very clear, as if guiding them in the direction. Fuck, what the hell do you want to do? Li Hu felt something was wrong. When he reacted, the two zombies had already rushed in front of him under the guidance of the sound. Fuck you, you will die a miserable death. Li Hu roared angrily, wishing to rip Shenyan's skin off. But the zombies were right in front of him, and he could only barely raise his axe to block. Unfortunately, his mind was still groggy, and his movements were slow, so he couldn't block them at all. A scream came, and Li Hu had just chopped down a zombie, when another zombie tore off a piece of flesh from his arm. And the previous zombie, he hadn't hit the vital part, and pounced on him again without feeling any pain. Li Hu was scared and wanted to run, but he was soon pounced on the ground from behind by two zombies, who pressed him to the ground and bit, and gnawed him madly. Fuck you. Li Hu stared at Shenyan with resentment, knowing that he was finished. But he was obviously the man who was going to be the king of the end of the world, and he hadn't experienced this paradise-like end of the world yet. His shoulders, back, thighs, and even Li Hu's butt were quickly bitten to pieces. His screams echoed in the community for a long time, making the survivors feel deep fear and anxiety. Being bitten to death by zombies is no different from being tortured to death, right? Seeing Li Hu's miserable state, Shenyan finally felt relieved. Then he didn't hesitate anymore, and threw the brick in his hand. After killing these two zombies, he also accepted the supplies that Li Hu had worked so hard to move from the supermarket. Chapter 23, Killing and Heartbreaking. Bang! The brick hit the zombie. But as Shenyan expected, the zombies without pain were not knocked unconscious or killed. They didn't even pay attention to Shen Yan. They just paused for a moment and continued to eat Li Hu on the ground. But this saved a lot of trouble. Shen Yan sneaked over and used a kitchen knife to kill them one by one. With the sharpness of the kitchen knife, it can only penetrate 2 to 3 centimeters into the skull. But compared to the brick that can only make a hole, the power of the kitchen knife is much greater. The brains of the two zombies were destroyed, and they soon lay on Li Hu's body motionless, and there was even blood and flesh stuck in their mouths that they had not swallowed in time. However, Li Hu's vitality was very tenacious. He was bitten to pieces, but he was not dead at this time. He looked at Shen Yan with anger. He watched Shen Yan pick up his fire axe and the supplies he had collected with great effort. "Thank you, Brother Hu. This axe is really convenient." Shen Yan waved the fire axe. "Yes, it's heavy, splitting the skull should be easy." "Fuck you, wow, this bag is full of Snickers, there must be hundreds of them." "Fuck you and this, more than a dozen bags of beef cubes, I'm really rich now." Puff. Brother Hu spurted out a mouthful of blood. "Hey, and Brother Hu, I have to kindly remind you, you are infected. I'll kill you. Woo woo woo." Killing people is heartbreaking. Li Hu actually cried out of grievance. Anger is one thing, and on the other hand he is really unwilling. This paradise-like end of the world has just begun. Damn, he actually capsized in the gutter. But who would have thought that this kid would be so cruel? He just threatened him a few words, and he actually attacked him without saying anything. After crying, Li Hu smiled miserably. "It's my fault that I'm used to being domineering. You are ruthless and a big shot. In the end times, only people like you can make a living." Brother Hu suddenly praised himself. Shen Yan always felt that there was something fishy, but he still clasped his fists. "Thank you, Brother Hu, for the compliment. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. Come on, kill me with a fire axe. I don't want to become such a disgusting thing. I understand. You want to wait for me to pass by and then drag me to death, right? Okay." Shen Yan walked over with caution. Li Hu is really a ruthless person. Seeing that the time is right, he actually endured the severe pain in his body and rushed over. He was infected, so he could kill him by biting the other party or just scratching a little wound. But unfortunately, Shen Yan was prepared. He had intermediate footwork and was very agile. He dodged with a flash, and Li Hu fell directly. "Hey, Brother Hu, you don't have martial ethics." "Li Hu, although I attacked you first, do you have to attack me?" "Fuck you." Li Hu finally couldn't hold on any longer. His skin turned grey and dry, and his earthworm-like blood vessels bulged. In the mockery of Shen Yan, he roared with strong unwillingness and turned into a zombie. Roar. After getting up, he still seemed to be dissatisfied and roared wildly at Shen Yan. Puff. Shen Yan split Brother Hu's head with an axe. The power of the fire axe is at least 3 or 4 times that of a kitchen knife. And it is easy to use magic, and it actually split Brother Hu's big head in 2 directly, so there is no need to worry about getting stuck and unable to pull it out. On the other side, Wan Lu upstairs witnessed the whole thing through the balcony, and the whole person was already stunned. Originally, she thought that the bald strong man would be a strong support, but he didn't expect that he was first attacked by someone, then torn apart by the zombies that were attracted, and finally killed by an axe. This little brother is so cruel, but it should be said that he is quite handsome, at least 1.8 meters tall, clean-faced, and with distinct facial features. If you encounter danger in the future, this little brother is a worthy target to turn to. As for whether the little brother will dislike him, haha, how is it possible? Wan Lu, has no other skills, but she is professional in taming men. When they have a chance to meet in the future, just hook her finger. Won't he have to take a look at Li Lei and recognize her control? Unless he is not a normal man. Shen Yan is of course a normal man, but it's a pity that, if Aunt King is a phoenix, she is at most a chicken. By the way, where is Li Lei? Wan Lu only remembered her other dog at this time. He hasn't come out of the supermarket for so long. Is he dead? Forget it, it doesn't matter. What does the death of that waste have to do with her? Solved the trouble of Li Hu, and returned with a full load. Shen Yan was in a good mood, and returned to building 3 without stopping. At this moment, except for the 0 to 1 above Aunt King's head, there were only 3 1, 2s floating on the 5th floor. As long as we get rid of these 3 zombies, there will be only Aunt King and I in building 3. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bar with the fire axe. Shen Yan's confidence doubled and he decided to solve this potential danger now. But the problem now is that he has to be able to open the security door on the 5th floor, close the unit door, and put the supplies in the corridor. Shen Yan didn't rush home afterwards, so he sat on the stairs and began to study the unlocking tools in his hand while flipping through the manual. About half an hour later, after having a comprehensive understanding of unlocking knowledge, Shen Yan selected a set of unlocking tools. This set of unlocking tools is a composite unlocking tool composed of steel wire, iron hook and tooth mold, commonly known as a master key. The advantages that most locks can be opened, and the disadvantages that the unlocking speed is slow. Then, Shen Yan still didn't rush to the 5th floor. Using the cardboard at the door of the old lady's house on the 2nd floor, he made another set of simple armor. After wrapping himself up tightly and eating a Snickers bar, Shen Yan came to the 5th floor. Insert the master key. The sound of scratching the security door came from inside the door again. Shen Yan ignored it and began to concentrate on using the method he had just learned to fiddle with the unlocking components. It was his first time unlocking a door, so his method was a little rusty. But fortunately, his technique was correct. About 10 minutes later, click, the security door opened in response. However, Shen Yan, who had been prepared, immediately used his legs to block the door as soon as the head and claws of the first zombie stretched out. Puff. Then he swung his arms and swung an axe down. Blood splashed and the first zombie was successfully killed. However, the zombies were very strong and the door could no longer resist at this time. Shen Yan decisively gave up and ran towards the stairs. The zombies were very fast. When they ran to the corner of the stairs, Shen Yan took advantage of the terrain and chopped another axe from a high position. Puff. The second zombie was also dealt with successfully. But the third zombie took the opportunity to rush forward with a roar. It was too late to swing the axe. Shen Yan could only kick it away and the zombie rolled down the stairs. Shen Yan rushed over again and before it could get up, he swung the third axe. Poof. The battle was over and it took no more than a minute. But the process was very dangerous. At this moment, Shen Yan felt that he was almost exhausted, sweating profusely, and his hand holding the fire axe could not stop shaking. There was no way, facing such a terrifying thing as zombies, no one would not be nervous. And the weather was hot, and he was wearing too much. Building number 3 will be safe at least now. He took off his cardboard armor and autumn sportswear. After sitting on the stairs for a while, Shen Yan's breathing calmed down. Afterwards, he was no longer in a hurry to collect supplies in the building and got up and went back home directly. Anyway, he and Aunt King are the only ones left in the building now. The supplies won't run away by themselves and he should find a chance to see if he can get closer to Aunt King. On the other side, at the supermarket at the door, a figure suddenly sat up from the ground, breathing in the fresh air, his chest trembling. Confused, puzzled, and doubtful emotions surged in his heart. Where is this? Subconsciously looking around, Li Lei was even more confused. It seemed to be the supermarket before, but how come it seemed to be completely engulfed by fire? The surrounding walls were charred, and his body was naked. Why? Am I not dead? Chapter 24 Aunt King, aren't you coming in to sleep? Shen Yan has a special key to Aunt King's house. It is much more convenient to open the door without a master key. Click. He turned the door lock, opened the security door, and walked into the house. But at this moment, a chaotic sound suddenly came from the study room. Bang. It seems that a chair has fallen. Bang. Then it seems that there is a sound of a notebook closing. Xia Yan. The voice was also flustered. Yes, there are only 2 of us in the building now. How can there be someone else? Why did Shen Yan feel that Aunt King's tone seemed a little flustered? Xia Yan, you don't come in yet. Wait a minute. The breathing seemed to be a little hurried, and at this time, with a bang, the door of the side bedroom was quickly closed. Shen Yan was even more confused and asked, why? Aunt King is like this. Why does she look like she is doing something shameful? But now it is the end of the world, and there are not many living people. Nothing. Aunt is changing clothes. Changing clothes in the side bedroom? Isn't that the study room, where the computer is placed? Shen Yan couldn't figure it out at all. Why did he feel that Aunt King was weird? But he didn't ask any more questions. He put the bloodstained autumn sportswear in the bathroom and then sat on the sofa with some confusion. After waiting for about 3 minutes, Aunt King finally came out from her side bed. But the clothes she was wearing were still the same ones she wore this morning. Beige long-sleeved home clothes plus the same trousers, which showed off her plump figure. And her charming face was still flushed, as if she had just done some intense exercise, and her expression was particularly unnatural. After changing, Aunt still thinks the one in this morning is the best. After saying that, Xia Wanqing awkwardly tapped her white and tender little toes, thinking in her heart, why not jump off the upstairs and just end it all? This is a lie. She didn't even believe it herself. Oh, so that's the case. Shen Yan turned his head to look at Aunt King, and his heart became even more confused. Of course he didn't believe this lie, but Aunt King has always been gentle and self-loving, so he didn't think about it for a while. Well, you've been out all morning. You must be hungry. Auntie will cook for you. Xia Wanqing didn't dare to face Shen Yan's gaze. She found an excuse and turned to walk into the kitchen. Shall I help you? No, you just came back. Take a rest. Looking at Auntie King's beautiful buttocks twisting unnaturally, Shen Yan was stunned for a moment and suddenly seemed to think of something. Then, in order to confirm his guess, while Auntie King was not paying attention, he flashed and came to the side. The Apple laptop was closed at this moment, but it was flashing with a bright light. Sure enough, it was not turned off. There was a hard drive plugged in next to it. Turning on the laptop, Shen Yan then lightly pressed it, and the LCD screen really lit up. However, Auntie King's computer desktop was very clean. Except for some icons of coding software, there were no white pictures that were not suitable for children. Did I guess wrong? Shen Yan was a little surprised, and then dragged the mouse to open the player to see if there was a video playback path. He was really curious, would a gentle and self-loving woman like Auntie King also watch movies? If she would watch movies, what kind of movies would she like? Just as she was thinking, Aunt King's hurried footsteps came over. Xia Wanqing, why did you come into Aunt's study? As soon as she entered the side bedroom study, Xia Wanqing saw Shen Yan open the player she had just used. Her pretty face flushed again, and she hurriedly said, Xia Wanqing, don't move, don't move. Why are you touching Aunt's computer? I'm bored. I'm going to watch a movie. Before Shen Yan finished speaking, Aunt King quickly bent down, blushed and grabbed the mouse, ready to close the player. Aunt is going to write a chronicle of the end of the world. Don't mess it up for me. I'll show it to you after I've sorted it out. Xia Wanqing was not completely lying. She was bored, and she really planned to record all the things she saw and heard in the end of the world. But the chronicle can be recorded in words. What does it have to do with the playback software? Shen Yan was a little speechless, and Aunt King was trying to cover up the truth. Although he hadn't seen the movie yet, he probably knew that he guessed it right. I can't believe that a woman who loves herself like Aunt King would actually. At this moment, Shen Yan's mood was so complicated. He was a little dazed, a little throbbing, and a little stunned. Could it be that Aunt King was the legendary type who was a housewife in the kitchen, a lady when she went out, and cough, stop. Aunt King was thin-skinned, and Shen Yan didn't want to expose her. But at this moment, Aunt King's hand trembled, and she actually clicked the play button. The next second, the white picture on the LCD screen was so exciting that I can't even describe it. Shen Yan was stunned. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bookbar. Xia Wanqing was also stunned. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to explain, but she was caught red-handed. How could she explain? After a moment of stunnedness, Xia Wanqing, who had no way to face Shen Yan anymore, actually ignored the picture, dropped the mouse and fled. Back to her bedroom, she closed the door with a bang. Wow, it's so embarrassing. Xia Wanqing put her head into the bed and didn't want to come out again. But she was obviously very ashamed now. But why did her body feel more and more strange? The picture on the computer just now could not be shaken off in her mind. Gradually, Shen Yan's young and masculine body and clean and handsome face emerged in her mind. Ah, Xia Wanqing, you are hopeless, Aunt King. Shen Yan came back to his senses and shouted outside the bedroom door. No response. It's so embarrassing. Aunt King is so thin-skinned. She really needs to slow down. Aunt King, it's time for dinner. After making lunch, Shen Yan came to the door and called again, but there was no response. Aunt King, it's time for dinner. Still no response. Aunt King, it's late. I'm going to bed first. Oh, still no response. Shen Yan still wanted to make a breakthrough in his relationship with Aunt King, but he didn't expect such a thing to happen. Not to mention kissing her lips or something. He didn't even touch her hand. Hey, go to sleep. He set an alarm to check the points in the early morning. Shen Yan lay on the sofa, closed his eyes, and stopped thinking. But at this moment, he suddenly heard the creaking sound of the door opening. He opened his eyes and saw a familiar plump figure in the dark moonlight. Aunt King? Shen Yan was a little surprised, wondering why she suddenly came out again. The figure stood there, silent for a long time, and suddenly said shyly, Xiao Yan, don't you come to sleep on the bed? Fool. Shen Yan instantly became energetic and stuttered, I sleep on the bed, or do we sleep on the bed together? If you want to sleep on the floor, I can't control it. After saying that, he turned around and left. Fool. Shen Yan almost jumped up from the spot in excitement. But what he couldn't understand was why Aunt King suddenly had such a big change. P.S. The next chapter should be the chapter to be put on the shelves. I hope everyone can support it. After all, the quality of the data determines whether a book can continue to be written. Also, when I heard someone say that the pace is slow, I will find a way to speed it up, and I will try to make it more exciting in the future. Please support me. Thank you. Thank you. Chapter 25 Xia Wanqing. Auntie sleeps very soundly. The fragrance in the room was warm and elegant, a unique fragrance of a woman's boudoir. Aunt King's plump figure was lying on the bed, her arms resting on her waist, and the watery moonlight shone in from the windowsill, making everything look hazy and tempting. Aunt King. Shen Yan called out nervously. Yeah. Aunt King hummed lightly, and her voice sounded a little erratic. Aunt King, are you asleep? Shen Yan asked, and suddenly realized that his question was a bit stupid. How could Aunt King answer him if she was asleep? I'm asleep. Aunt King's answer was even more stupid. After answering, she realized that something was wrong and added, well, don't ask anymore. Aunt King will fall asleep soon. If you are not sleepy, do something yourself. Aunt King falls asleep quickly and falls asleep. As long as there is no big noise, it will not wake up Aunt King. After saying that, her body moved to the side again, leaving a large space. Oh. Shen Yan nodded. But the room is so dark, what should he do? Hiss, that's not right. Why does he feel that Aunt King seems to have something else to say? Fall asleep quickly and sleep soundly? Then can he understand that, even if he does something extraordinary besides sleeping, he will not wake her up? Oh my. Shen Yan was a little excited and a little nervous. If his guess is correct, then there will definitely be a key breakthrough in his relationship with Aunt King today. Not to mention completing the system task, he can also have a lot of intimate contact with Aunt King, who he has been thinking about. But when should he act? Now, immediately, right away. No matter how fast Aunt King falls asleep, it must not be so fast. Even if it is tacitly understood, he must continue this play. He waited silently for half an hour. During this period, Aunt King's sleeping posture did not change at all, and gradually her breathing became even, as if she really fell asleep. After quietly glancing at Aunt King, Shen Yan no longer hesitated and tiptoed over. The city was dead silent at night, and the survivors hid in the corners and tried their best not to make any sound. It was so quiet that Shen Yan's heartbeat seemed to be heard. This was a gamble. After all, he might be completely wrong, and Aunt King had no idea in this regard at all. If I secretly touched her, it would definitely leave a bad impression on Aunt King. Huh. Shen Yan exhaled lightly. He slowly sat down along the edge of the bed at an extremely slow speed. Because of his body weight, the bed sheet slowly sank a little, and because the wooden bed was a little old, it also made creaking and creaking sounds. The environment has a great impact on people. A quiet room, a room for a mature and elegant woman. Bang. At this time, the slippers on his feet fell to the ground, and Shen Yan was instantly frightened. He quietly looked at Aunt King and found that she was still lying there without any movement. He calmed down and continued to move. First, with his hips as a fulcrum, Shen Yan leaned back gently, then used his arms to force and slid up gently until his upper body lay on the bed. Only then did he leave his feet and get on the bed. After doing this action, Shen Yan breathed a sigh of relief again and lay flat on the bed. This bed is not a traditional double bed, and the width is about 1.5 meters. Although Aunt King was lying on the side of the bed, the space left was also very limited. Shen Yan could even smell the faint fragrance of lilies on her hair, and his right arm inevitably had a slight contact with her back. Aunt King's home clothes were made of silk, which was particularly smooth. He felt a warm and elastic skin underneath. Shen Yan's heart was instantly moved. He had already gotten on the bed. What should he do next? He secretly glanced at Aunt King from the corner of his eye. She was still motionless, and her breathing was even unsymmetrical. Is she really asleep? Then he could kiss her quietly? No, Aunt King had her back to him, so he couldn't kiss her at all. He hesitated for a moment. Shen Yan also lay on his side, and then slowly supported his body with his arms. Then, he stretched out his left hand with some trembling, and embraced Aunt King's plump but flat waist. My god. The silk home clothes were silky and smooth, and the flat belly continued to move up like a girl. He groped and soon touched two small hands. Warm and soft, the figure hesitated for a moment, and gently held it. After a while, Aunt King still didn't respond. Shen Yan got a little bolder, moved forward a little more, and pressed tightly against her from behind. Wow. Aunt King's plump body was in his arms, and the feeling at this moment could not be described in words. Shen Yan's heartbeat accelerated and throbbed. This work is organized and uploaded by Liu Jiu Bokba. Now the hands have touched, and the person has been hugged. Then what? Stop here. No, it's not easy to have such an opportunity. Wouldn't it be worse than a beast to give up? If I continue, will it really annoy Aunt King? Who? Never mind. The dead bird will fly to the sky. Shen Yan let go of Aunt King's little hand and continued to move upwards. And just at this moment, he suddenly felt that Aunt King's body seemed to tense up. Under the moonlight, her long eyelashes were also trembling slightly, as if she was waking up. Shen Yan. What a pity. It was just a little bit short. He didn't dare to move anymore, and his heart jumped to his throat. And he was a little puzzled whether Aunt King was asleep or not. After a long while, Shen Yan, who was really unwilling to give up, asked softly, Aunt King, are you asleep? There was no response. But just when his hand wanted to move up again, Aunt King's eyelashes trembled again. When her hand stopped moving, she breathed evenly, as if she was sleeping soundly. When she moved again, her eyelashes not only trembled, but she also uttered a light HMM. When her hand stopped moving, her breathing was even. After trying several times, Shen Yan suddenly understood. Aunt King was definitely not asleep, and her reaction seemed to remind herself that she was about to wake up, and you should stop. But you pretended to be asleep and acquiesced to some of my actions. Isn't this just covering your ears and stealing the bell? What else do I have to be afraid of? After thinking this through, Shen Yan became bolder again, and the uneasiness in his heart was disappearing. He took a deep breath of excitement and moved his hand up again, but at this moment, his hand was actually held directly by Aunt King's little hand. No. Although he knew that Aunt King was not asleep, she suddenly spoke, and Shen Yan was still startled. But Aunt King didn't seem to blame her, except to say no. Shen Yan couldn't help but get more excited. The last bit of uneasiness in his heart completely disappeared. However, this time he didn't rush to move his hand up, but played a trick. He first withdrew his hand, and then when Aunt King thought he had given up, he suddenly and quickly held it up. A sneak attack. At this moment, the soft and amazing feeling was beyond words. Shen Yan's head was also filled with blood, and he almost had a nosebleed. It feels at least C. No, E. On the other side, Xia Wanqing's body was completely stunned. Writer's words. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.